Good evening. Tonight's guest is an accomplished paranormal investigator, tech specialist, and author, public figure with paranormal team S.P.I.R.I.T.S of New England, and founder of the Rensselaer Paranormal Research. He has a comic book out that was illustrated by Alex Cormack called S.P.I.R.I.T.S, based on a true story of the forgotten souls of Bay Path. So please welcome our friend, Mr. Jack Kenna.
Hey, how's everybody doing tonight?
Oh, we got an intro coming. 1 second, but it's going to work. There we go. I think there were ghosts in my computer, man, because if I hit the button, nothing happened. So there might be some hauntings happening in my... What's happening, guys?
How's it going?
Good.
Good,
Yeah,
good,
Jack's muted. Let me unmute him. Here we go.
Jack's muted.
There you go, Jack. Oh, I think you're unmuted, buddy.
Oh,
there he is.
Sorry about that. I thought I unmuted.
No worries.
Okay, sorry.
I tell you,
I didn't
we're
want to talk before I should have. That's it. See, it's the ghosts in the machines.
I know. We're off to a good start. Get the exercise the demons. Get them out of here.
We couldn't have a better to go into hell.
I've helped do that. Actually, I actually have helped do that. Exercise demons. Yeah.
Oh, man.
Not even a joke.
My dad had a little bit of experience with that. He was a minister and was stationed out in Jamaica, and had some lady that was actually got possessed and things. And it's kind of cool. He used to play the cornet, which was like a small trumpet. And I guess he was playing down there, and this lady came out. She was all possessed and grabbed it out of his hands and threw it on the ground and smashed it. And I still have it. The bell has been repaired and patched and welded up, but they had it rebuilt over in England. But yeah, he said there's a real thing like down the islands. People that are just like out of their mind and influenced by the devil.
Right here in the States too. We had a case in New York that we actually ended up being a possession case. And I was involved with helping to do the exorcism. I didn't do the exorcism. A friend of mine is an exorcist. They call themselves spiritual warriors now. That's what the actual term is. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a real thing. People can get out of mind and be influenced, and
When you see people physically change in front of your eyes, that's a really strange thing. It really is.
It is.
I can't even imagine.
I never could either till I actually saw it. You can't explain it. It's hard to explain to somebody, but I never would have thought it really could have happened either until I actually witnessed it. So and do people ask, well, did you take video of that? It's like, no, we don't videotape that stuff. Matter of fact,
it's kind of a private thing.
Because of that particular case, we couldn't. Because actually, we couldn't. You have to have permission and everything else. Because it's other people. So unless you have their permission, you can't do that. So and you don't really want to see it anyway. Really, it is very similar to see what you see in some. Interestingly enough, but.
Well, you always wonder that too, right? Like how accurate they get with that stuff in like the movies, like when you see the twisting of limbs that shouldn't twist that way and stuff like that. It just
it's not so much that, and it's no head spinning and things like that.
No,
your head doesn't spin around and stuff like that. But they do end up having more strength than they should. Let's put it that way. I mean, with the case we had, it was a young teenage girl and her mother. They both ended up having the problem. And we had two big guys with us. One's a cop, one was a correctional officer. They're just on our team. And two of them and the mother at the time could not hold the girl down, barely hold the girl down.
Wow.
And she's like 14 years old. She was like, 14 at the time. Yeah. So, I mean, this stuff, you see this stuff and you watch this stuff. And the words that come out of them, the voice that comes out of them, it's not their voice. It's like a multiple voice. It's really strange. It really is strange. And just a lot of weird stuff happens.
How do you do to strip away those cases of possessions from those people who have some kind of mental illness?
It takes a long time. I mean, just to identify really that was a possession case took a year. of
wow.
Yes, working, because actually the girl was even going to psychiatrists, psychologists, and the medications wouldn't work. All the different medications they tried didn't resolve her issue, and that's usually one sign. But then there's a whole bunch of things else you have to look for, and it's like part of it is saying prayer. Now these people were Catholic. I'm Roman Catholic myself, so you're saying prayer in your head, and they're reacting to it.
Yeah.
Even though they can't hear you, they're having a serious reaction to it. There's tricks you play, like you put holy oil on your hands before you go in the house, and you shake their hand and you watch their reaction to it. They should, nobody should react to that, right? These people do.
Wow.
Violently react to it. So yeah, it's crazy, So there's a whole bunch of things, but it takes a long time before you can figure out what's really going on. And part of it is, yes, them seeing psychiatrists, psychologists, and trying to work out that part of it. Because usually, to be honest with you, people who end up with that kind of problem where they're possessed by something, they actually have something serious that happened to them that has actually caused mental illness. And that can be family rape. It can be a lot of different things, drug addiction. It's a whole bunch of things. And so there's that aspect to it too. Some of it actually there is a mental illness portion involved, but that's what allows them to kind of be open to these other things coming in. Yeah, and there was a big reason. Yeah, and there was a reason behind that too. Like in the end, we found out from the mother, who after her exorcism, she didn't tell us this the whole time, but she had committed suicide when she was 17 because she was raped. And she died. She go and the thing of it is, she goes, I went to hell. I know I went to hell. And we asked her, I said, well, what was hell? Because there's actually known from other exorcists who have done exorcism, they talk to the demons, they tell them what hell really is. She described it she couldn't have known this because it's not widely known. What everybody thinks hell is fire and brimstone and being took. It's not. It's the absence of everything. It's pitch blackness. And all you hear is the screams of the tormented. And that's exactly how she described it. So she was there. Wow. So the doctors didn't know how they brought her back. She just came back. They saved her. They didn't know how because she had pretty much bled out. And she thought maybe God heard her calls and brought her back. I said, no, it was probably the demon that brought you back. Because demons don't want to be in hell either. If they can find a way out, they'll find a way out. So I think that's what happened. It came back with her, stayed with her whole life, because after that, her life was a living hell, basically, anyway. And then when she, had kids and everything else, they started going after the kids. So that's how that whole case came into being,
When we speak about paranormal, like that can involve many things. It's a wide,
it's huge,
wide range. Like you can talk about extraterrestrial living appearances, ghosts, NDE, OB. There's so many things.
Yeah, it's not just ghosts. It's
not only ghosts and possessions. Right. So you have specialized on those type of I'd say those type of phenomena.
Yes. So everybody specializes kind of in something different in the field. I mean, I do mostly paranormal investigations in regards to hauntings and those types of things. I have another friend of mine who's into cryptids. I mean, he does all the Bigfoot stuff, and he started off trying to debunk it until he had his own experience.
Yeah.
And actually, I've had one too. I did. I actually saw one time, and I'd never told anybody until I met my friend Steve Coles, who's the guy that's into all that. So, and we grew up in the same area. I didn't even know about him until like 5 years ago when I met him at an event. And we got talking about Bigfoot and stuff. And I told him my experience. And he goes, "Oh, you saw the Kitterhook creature." I'm like, "What are you talking about? I never heard about it." Right.
Yeah.
But I said, all I know is I saw this thing down by a creek. I went to go fishing one day and it was standing down by the creek. And I was like, that's interesting. And it turned and walked off into the woods. And that's the last I saw it. It was, maybe 30 seconds worth, but it's strange. And what are you going to tell people? So it's like, I never told anybody until you meet a guy like that who's, he's researching all that. And it's like, well, actually, and it turns out the year I saw it, the year that I had my experience, there was multiple sightings of that same creature in that same area within a mile radius of where I was.
Yeah.
So it's like, I didn't know. Because I didn't know.
Do you think it's a creature that like survived over millions of years that kind of hides out, or do you feel maybe it's something more like transdimensional that can appear and then not and then disappear? Like, what's your thought on something like that?
From my short observation of it, I used to hunt and fish and all that stuff for many, many years. My quick observation of what I saw, it just reminded me of an animal. I mean, just any other animal. Because it was when I first saw it, it was like, it was down by the creek, which is pretty good size. I mean, it's like 100 yards across, and it's pretty good size and small. I don't want to call it a river, but it's a creek, what we call a creek. Good trout fishing there, by the way. And it was drinking water face first out of the creek, so like any animal would. And then it just kind of spotted me, stood up, looked at me, and then turned and walked off into the woods like 30 yards, or not even like 30 feet or 40 feet. Walked into the woods, and I never saw it again. So to me, it acted like an animal. I don't think I really believe in this whole that it's like extraterrestrial or it's coming from some other dimension or something like that. Animals can disappear pretty quick. I mean, I used to deer hunt a lot too, and I've seen deer in the woods. You're in the woods, you see them for 2 seconds, they're gone. They disappear real fast when they want.
What was your initial reaction when you saw that? Were you scared, nervous, like disbelief?
No, it was just like, it was just like, what the heck is that? Because actually, at first I thought maybe it was a bear, because it was, it was all down on all fours drinking water out of the creek, and then it stood up on 2 legs. It's like a person. It looked like a person, but it was all covered in brown hair. And it was only about like 6 foot tall, and that's what Steve said. Yeah, it's like it was always described as all covered in this brown hair and 6 foot tall. So I'm like, oh, okay. And then it just walked off like a person, more gangly, I guess, but just still walked off on 2 legs. Bears don't do that. I've hunted bears.
I've never seen anybody do that. I mean, we do have Clark's Trading Post up here in New Hampshire. They train the bears to go on like unicycles, but I don't think you got loose.
You can see things like that. And I've seen bears stand up and on their hind legs and stuff, and then they take off. They go down on all fours and run, which normally that's what a bear would do if you saw it. If you saw it, would turn and run on all fours. It wouldn't stand up on 2 legs and walk away. Yeah. So it's just like you start doubting yourself. Really, it's like, what did I just see? What was that? It wasn't a person.
What did I drink?
What was it? So you start wondering, did I actually just see that? It's not a thing of fear. At least it wasn't for me. It was more like, what did I just see? It was more like confusion.
I like to feel like I, have some toughness to me, but if I saw something stand up on 2 legs, even if I thought it was a bear at first, and that thing stood up on 2 legs and turned and walked away on 2 feet, I'd be like, "Oh hell no! Like I'm out of here! Like I'm gone."
No, I mean it was on the other side of the creek from me too. So I mean it was. I mean, if I figure out from where I was to where it was, I was about 40 yards, maybe 50 yards away, right? Where you can see it, you can see what it is, but you can't see a lot of detail. You know what I'm saying? So you're just looking there going, what the heck did I just see? I actually stayed and fished for about a half hour, and then I felt like I shouldn't be there, and I kind of left. Now, that's interesting because I got talking to Steve about that. I said, I fished for about 30 minutes, and I kind of felt strange, like I was being watched the whole time, and then I just finally left. And they talk about it can be something along the lines of infrasound. They can use infrasound. Is that true? I don't know. But that would give you a feeling of kind of nervousness, uneasiness, And then also you're still sitting there wondering, what did I see? What did I really see?
Was that spurred you into doing this type of investigation?
No.
Or that happened before?
No. It happened before I really got into this. I mean, I was always interested in that kind of stuff, but there was something, and it's been on one of the TV shows I did. I think it's called my Paranormal Nightmare, where I told my origin story, which I didn't remember until just more recently either. But I had an experience when I was 17 that scared the hell out of me, and I actually got away from everything paranormal. I just didn't want to be involved. It had to do with something demonic, what I felt was demonic, and I saw this thing in my home, and I guess you could say, you might say, "Wow, that was just a dream," or it was just this. No, it seemed pretty damn real, and but there was something else that came and chased it away, and I never saw the other thing. I saw that demonic thing. Did any of you ever see Zach Bagans' The Demon House?
I have not.
Maybe I saw so much of his stuff. I don't recall seeing so much.
It was a documentary. It wasn't one of his regular shows. It was a documentary he did, and he describes this demon thing that he saw in a dream. And if you look that up, it's exactly what I saw. That when I saw that, when I was watching his show and I saw that, scared the hell out of me. Everything came back that I had kind of pushed out of my head. I had to shut it off, and I'm like, I can't watch that. I can't watch it. And I did end up going back and watching it finally. But what he described is exactly what I saw. And then when all that happened, this thing was getting closer. I felt it was going to pretty much kill me, take my soul, right? And I heard this other voice say, "It's okay, you're going to be okay, you have things to do." And then this other thing screamed and it just disappeared. Now, that other voice didn't sound male or female. So I think it was something, my own personal opinion, felt it was something angelic. But after that, it's like, I want nothing to do with any of this stuff. Forget it. I'm done. And I just walked away from it. And that's when I get into really more hunting, fishing, all that stuff. My friends, school, focused on all that stuff and ignored all the paranormal stuff. But still, Ghost Hunters came on. That I got back into. But I still had not remembered what happened to me. Otherwise, I probably still wouldn't have got back into it. So,
in your opinion, what's the best outcome from all those years doing this type of investigation, like going, really deep into the paranormal? And I infer that you were searching for something. I don't know if you were afraid of death and you're trying to prove yourself otherwise. I don't know.
Not for me. That wasn't what it was about for me. For me, once I saw Ghost Hunters and started watching that, it was about, like, their show was about helping people, trying to figure out hauntings. And that's what we do. That's what Spirits of New England and me and my teams do. We try to help people. That's really what it's about for me. I think that's why I end up getting involved with these other more intense cases, because you really want to just help people. And that's just me. That's who I am. I like to help people if I can. I already, people say, well, aren't you skeptical? But I said, no, I believe in the afterlife. I know there's an afterlife. Besides experiencing enough of this stuff and having made contact with things you can't see, which is kind of weird. And heard these disembodied voices, or caught what they call electronic voice phenomenon, EVPs, of regular people. I mean, I think I have some on the computer. I might even be able to play one or two for you.
That'd be cool.
Oh wow! Yeah,
but
awesome.
and they're very clear. These are clear voices. This isn't something that you're like, oh, what is that? I'll play if I can find one. I'll play it for. I have two. I'll play for you.
Actually,
but for me, that was about helping people, and that's what really drew me back into it, was to be able to help people and learn how to do that. That's what Jason and Grant, those guys, did for us. They helped teach us how to do all that, and that's why I got back into it. So to me, it wasn't about proving or disproving anything. It was just about helping people.
Yeah, I've had a lot of interesting experiences in my youth and growing up. I mentioned earlier, my father was a minister, so we lived in old parsonages. And these houses in New England, man, they go back to the 1700s, things like that. But I can remember like a house I had here in town. Like I was probably 6, 7, 8 years old at the time, but I would see like those. I call them the shadow people. You probably heard that, right? Where like there'd just be something that moved. Yeah, they move by like a doorway, like quickly out of the corner of your eye. Like they're just always out of sight a little bit, but they're doing stuff, and there's no reason for any of this activity, movement. That was a real thing. I can remember as a kid being, terrified of my bedroom. Everywhere else in the house was fine, but I hated my room. I hated being there. I always felt like something was watching me. I got up one night, there was a thunder and lightning storm, and I recall looking out my bedroom window, and I saw what I thought was Dracula when I was a kid. So I told my parents this, and like, oh, stop watching Scooby-Doo, you know, you're out of your mind. Yeah. But now that I think about back as an adult, I might have saw a reflection in the mirror, in the window, the glass, something in the room, you know, period dress or whatever, and there was a lot of activity in that house. I've owned a former funeral home. I currently have a cemetery on my property. So yeah,
sounds like you should be a paranormal investigator, right?
It was not intentional. It wasn't like, oh, cemetery sold. Like people look for a pool. Not this guy. I want a cemetery. You know, it wasn't like
Even I don't want a cemetery in my backyard.
There's only 12 of them. There's no big deal. My wife had a reading done from a guy in Mexico. Here, she did it like something like this via like Zoom or whatever, and he goes, well, I sent you somewhere old. This house was built in 1850, and he goes, I'm sensing that there's at least 32 spirits on that property with you, so I'm going to go ahead and clear those for you. So he did whatever they do, and he said some might even been back to like Native American origin. But I've had experiences with, like, I stayed at my aunt's house in Pennsylvania, and that was probably the most haunted house that I've ever been in. I stayed there. I could only do 2 nights. And I had to actually go back to my parents' hotel and stay with them. People will be walking up and down the hallway all night, jingling keys outside of my cousin's bedroom door, like they're trying to open the door. They've had so many experiences. The most prolific that I think, in my opinion, was my younger cousin. She got up to go use the bathroom in the middle of the night, and she thought her brother was in the bathroom because the door was locked, and like somebody was taking a shower. She knocked on the door like, come on, Josh, I got to use the bathroom. So she went and got her mom and dad, and my uncle came down, was like knocking on the door like, come on, Josh, get out of there. Your sister got to use the bathroom. And then like the door was then unlocked, and the water was draining out of the tub and was warm, like someone had just taken a shower, but there was nobody around and everybody was asleep in the house. This was like 3 a.m, no reason to be taking a shower. So someone was in there or something. A shower.
It's okay.
Yeah, right. At least a clean though. So. But radios would come on with no battery, no not plugged in. They pick up like signals, like swearing and vulgar stuff on the radio, and they thought it was like just truckers coming by picking up CB signal or something, and then you find out that there's no power source for the radio like that. So the house, I guess the guy that lived, or the guy or lady that lived there before them, like lay dead in there for like a couple weeks before somebody found them. So it's an older person. Nobody knew they were in there. They were rehabbing the house. Like things like tools would come up missing. Like they'd set the hammer down on the kitchen table, go downtown to get lunch, come back and the hammer's gone, and they'd find it a month later in a crawl space under the living room. You know, those kind of things. So
weird stuff.
No reason for it to be down there. Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
The house was like
there. Right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Like, I mean, I could go on and on. I won't. But I won't.
Sounds. Some of it sounds like it was residual, like the footsteps and the key. Some of that stuff can be like residual stuff, which means it's just stuff that occurred in the house so often, so many times for so many years. It's trapped there now. Doesn't mean there's a ghost involved with that. But then some of it sounds like it's intelligent. Right, like an actual spirit's there and it's interacting, like the water coming on, and you know somebody's in there. It seems, you know, so that could be. You could have a little bit of both going on, and that's true of a lot of cases, a lot of hauntings. There's a little bit of everything going on, you know. But it's interesting. Pennsylvania. It's a lot of hauntings.
If
I got friends who live down there, you know. I got a lot of friends who live down there. Yeah.
If the rent is too cheap, so be suspicious.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, really nice house, really low rent. Why?
Yeah. Way too many horror movies that start that way.
Bad plumbing. It's bad plumbing.
Yeah.
But you talk about the. I want to go to this for a second because it's in the comic book that we were going to talk about. You talk about shadow figures, and in the comic book, because this is based on one of our actual, and I told you I have it here, so it's based on one of our actual investigations we did. I did see straight on with my own eyes a shadow figure. That's what's on that.
Put you on.
Let's see if I can get it. There you go. That's what's on that first page.
Yeah.
It wasn't exactly like that I saw it, but I saw that looking straight at it. And Alex captured it.
I got it here too.
You know? Yeah. He originally put glowing eyes on it, and I said, "No, Alex, it didn't have glowing eyes. Don't. I want to keep it like semi-real,
right.
You know, without it being too real." So But I did actually see that, and it looked like the shape of a female to me, standing next to me on a couch. I mean, I'm sitting on a couch. It was next to the couch. And then the other side of the couch was, because it's kind of a finished basement area, it was a door to his this guy's sister's bedroom. Well, it blocked out the door. So, and I'm looking at it and I'm going, I did what it just said in the book. I pulled up my video camera to try to catch it because I had an infrared camera, and it wouldn't show up in the infrared. I'm looking at it and looking at the camera. I'm looking at it, looking at the camera. I go, son of a bitch. I was afraid of it. I'm like, I'm trying to capture this thing. It's what I'm here for. And it wouldn't show up. So I'm like, son of a bitch. Don't I capture an EVP, a woman's voice saying didn't like me right after I said that.
Where'd you get that?
Then it faded away. So I think she thought I was swearing at her.
Oh, okay.
So,
Gotcha.
You son of a bitch,
Right.
And I wasn't, but but in that particular case, it turned out we actually experienced, and it's in that comic. Everything in there we actually did experience. Right. So what you read in that comic is things we actually experienced. We experienced everything the client did, the guy did. That night, and we brought in a good psychic friend of ours to help us out with it, and she was able to give him information on who was there, why they were there. Now this guy was just as it talks about in there, he was on dialysis. He was really getting towards the end of his life, and it was family members that were really trying to reach out to him, I think, to just help him along and maybe get him to atone for some really bad things he did in life. So that's kind of what it was. But he wouldn't take our word. He wouldn't believe that. He wanted to believe it was demons coming for him. And maybe because of the things he had originally done in life when he was younger. He kind of straightened his life out later on, but he'd done some really bad stuff when he was younger. So that was one where we did the best we could to help him, but we couldn't totally help him in the end, because he just didn't want to believe what we had figured out for him. It's not what he wanted to hear. And that happens sometimes. It's not what they want to hear. They want to hear what they believe. It's not always the case. But it is an interesting story. It's an interesting book. And Alex did a great job with it. You noticed that you mentioned it's in black and white. That's because I asked him to do it that way.
Yeah, that's great.
Because anytime we're doing like investigations, everything, we work at night. We go lights out and we use the infrared. So I want it to be just kind of black and white and set that mood for it, and he did an awesome job. Alex did an awesome job with it. And I couldn't have been more pleased. I think I had to make 4 changes altogether for that whole comic book, because I told him what I wanted. I told him what I was looking for. We talked about it for a couple days over the phone, different times. And he goes, I know what you want. And he put it all together. And I'm like, holy crap, that's exactly how I envisioned it. That's how good awesome. Alex is. Yeah. And I think that would be said by a lot of the people he works with. He has a good way to envision what you want, and what you're trying to do. And he's just like, I couldn't be more pleased with it. I've got to really work on another one with him. So I got a couple.
Yeah, please do, because it was great. I met Alex at the comic book show in Concord earlier this year, and that's why you're here. So it was great.
Yeah. He's a great guy too. But yes, he really did capture exactly what I was thinking, and I couldn't have been more happier. Yeah, I do have some plans. Of course, these things cost money to make, so I'm not rich.
A little bit.
Just a little. People don't realize that. I don't have sponsors, so I'm trying to do it. Whatever. We did try to reach out to a few different places to see if anybody would pick it up. We had one place interested, and then they kind of dropped it. So, I don't know what happened, but anyways, we're gonna keep going with it. They sell well when I do my events and stuff like that. People love it. They enjoy it. So I'm just going to keep doing it. And I do write books as well. I've written a book. And that's one thing I'll say. I actually, even this one is written as a story in my other book. It's called Hauntings, Ghosts, and Demons. But I would say this. I learned still something about scripting when you write a script. I did have to change some of the way I had written the story for the script. So I didn't really realize how that works until I actually did it. It's like, now I know why. When you go from a book to a movie or something like that, things change because it makes more sense, right? So that's an interesting process. But
I was going to ask you that, because my dream was always to write novels, write with prose and whatnot, and so obviously now I write comic scripts for these guys, and the first one I ever wrote for Joel was a mess as far as like how I presented it to him. I was taking paragraphs and sending to him like page by page because I hadn't. Now I feel like I got the process down, but it's just like you said, there's so many things you don't think about with the script, like what's going to be on, what do you want to reveal on the next page, or how are you going to place it, stuff like that. So
and that's just it. You got to think of what you want to see in the frame, right? So you've got to think of how you're going to write that and how you're going to describe that for the artist who's going to draw it, right? So because he's got to know what you want. You don't want it too vague, and you want to make sure he understands what you're trying to get across. So, I mean, when we first started that, when we first decided to do it, it took me 3 months to rewrite the story to a script. And that was a lot of just like, all right, how am I going to convey this now over to here? So it took me a while to do that before I had it where I was happy with it and sent it over to him. And then it went pretty quick after that, but I think that was the hardest part, was me rewriting the story into a script. So
have you included any footnote on your book, just stating that everything that's there is a work of fiction, but the phenomenon is actually real?
I do
deal.
some. I do. I think in the book, actually, I talk about how these are based on our actual investigations. The actual things we talk about, at least some of it, or a majority of it, is actually things we really experienced. And then I do say that, there is some things that have been, what do they say, I've taken liberty with. to make it a little bit more exciting for a story, And they do that on TV. I've done enough TV where they've told our cases on TV and stuff like that. And they take some license with, when they do the reenactments, making it more exciting and stuff like that. And you have to get that, you have to understand that. And be okay with it,
that's a great segue, because you got to work on a haunting, and that was one of my favorites. I think I've seen all of the original ones, and I'm so glad they brought it back. I haven't got a chance to see the new ones yet, but one of my favorite episodes was the Haunting of Summerwind. Was that mansion up in Wisconsin, and I don't know if you caught that one, but that was a wild one. But I lived in a house similar to that era at the time, so all these things resonate very well with me. I was like, oh yeah, that seems about right. So all these, but that was a wild episode. So on the original series, but
I don't remember that. I mean, I probably did see it, but it's been a while since I watched a lot of them. Even my own, I only watched them once. The ones
I never watched this either. So
it's weird to watch yourself. But I always watched them all at once just to see how they made me look, And you have to do that at least anyway, because if they make you look really stupid, you're like, I'm not going to work with them anymore.
Right.
Or if they really take too much license with how they do things, you got to be really careful. One thing I have found out is, and I kind of knew it from other friends of mine who had done shows, because I knew Jason and Grant and all those guys, like I said, from Ghost Hunters and all that. I know John Zaffis. And so before I did my shows, I actually went to a couple and said, do you have any advice? And of course, they said, be careful what you say. And don't just agree to say anything they tell you to. And I was like, I kind of figured that much. So, because if you say something, even later on, they will take and edit things in to make the story they want. So you got to be careful, because they'll always say, don't you think that was demonic? And not everything is. Yes, I have worked a couple cases like that, but they're very rare. All right. So not everything is demonic, and they keep wanting you to say it. And I would just sit there and shake my head. They're like, you're not even going to say it, are you? I said, no, because if I do, you'll edit it in. Like, you figured that one out already? They're like, yeah. I said, if I really believe it was, I will say it. If I don't, I'm not gonna. But you got to work with them too, because it's like, what they're trying to do. They're trying to make a show that's entertaining, that tells your story, but it's got to be entertaining. And they're looking for certain things, because in that genre, people watch those shows want to get frightened and stuff like that. Right. So if it's not demonic, but I do think it was negative, I'll say I do believe it was a negative type haunting. Something that was very angry was bothering those people, you know. So I'll say things like that, but I won't use a D word unless I really believed it was.
Yeah.
So that's the way you got to do it. You got to work with them, and you know, once they realize, all right, this is a like somebody who's not just going to do everything we tell them to do. They actually have a lot more respect for it, you know.
Yeah.
And they want to work with you more because they know you work with them to make a good show.
You take it serious, yeah.
Yeah, you take it seriously, just like they do. They want it to be exciting. They want to get good ratings because if they don't get another show and it won't get paid, right? So
yeah.
So it's all about that to them. Where to me, it was more about an opportunity to teach people something, to help advance, you know, let people know about something. So that's how I took it, you know. So yeah, it's fun to work with them, but you got to be a little careful, and they get it, you know.
I've had that happen. I've had that happen myself. I did some interviews with I was in the fine art world, and just doing like with Boston University, I think it was, did just an interview with them, and I was just talking about art, and all. Next thing you know, when I saw it edited out in post, it was just like all this negative thing about how like COVID's affecting the art scene. I was like, we didn't talk about any of that stuff. Like, it was just weird how they chopped it up, and like it was a real positive conversation, but it was like this really depressing, sad like piece they put together. I was like, God,
that's when you go, I don't think I'll work with them again.
Yeah. Well, you know,
it wasn't even what we interviewed about. So
I go back and watch some of these shows, and I'm like, man, Joel edited what I said. I didn't sound that stupid. And then he's like, no, I didn't do any editing. That's you.
I didn't do any editing at all. You are who you are.
Like a ventriloquist, I'm just working the jaw over here.
I keep coming back though, so that's my own fault, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's what I like about these. We talk. We're saying what we say, and we are who we are, you know. And,
exactly.
And people, like, it's weird because once you've been on TV and stuff, you get a following, and you've got these people watching. I notice I'm looking at the comments section, and some of my friends are in here tonight. Some of the good guys I know, Bob Maloney and a few others. So they're watching today because I did put it up on my stream. My own
thanks.
Page.
That's awesome.
But you get fans. And it gets weird, right? So, but one thing a good friend of mine told me is when you're doing TV, the most important thing is just be who you are, because that's who people are expecting to meet later on.
Yeah.
Exactly. Right. And that's what I've done is that's who I am. So when people meet me, they're like, "You're really just like you are." I said, "Yeah, I'm not an actor." I sit in a chair and get interviewed. That's what I do. You know, it's like, wow, you're just really the regular person. Yep, that's right. I am. That's who I am. You know? So I think it surprises people because some people on these other shows, they put on a persona, and sometimes in real life they're a lot less friendly than they would seem. I'm not going to mention names or anything like that, but that's can be what it's about for some of these people too. And nothing against them. I hold nothing against those people. I mean, they're trying to make a career out of being on TV. I'm not. You know, I enjoy it. I like it. I would love to get a show myself, just to be able to do what I want to do, you know, with it, teach people. But I'm not going to change who I am if that happened. And if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. It's okay. I am teaching, though. I actually, my other book I wrote, Paranormal Research, which is a more serious book than any of these other two. I mean, it's an actual how to investigate. By serious, I mean, I get into the details of building a team, ways to investigate, how to talk to spirit, all this stuff. And I'm actually teaching that at a couple of my local colleges, just continuing education type classes, a few times a year or so. So that's been fun. I'm getting to do that and getting to teach people who are really interested in building their own teams of how to go do that and do it the right way and do what you really want to do. Oh yeah, thank you. There it is.
Yeah. I wanted to pull that up there for you.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. So that's my hardcover book, Paranormal Research, that was published by Schiffer Publishing for me. It's got a lot of good reviews if you check it on there. But I do use this book as my textbook for my course, and we just finished one up just a couple weeks ago. So we finished. We don't get a lot of people. I mean, we had like 7 people come, but these people really want to learn. So that's what I do. I teach them. We actually do an investigation as part of the course. and teach them everything we can, so that if they want to go out and get their own team, but actually that's what they're trying to do, they know the proper way to work with helping people, because this is all about working with clients and working with people, which is what they say they want to do. So we teach them kind of how to do that. And, you know, without getting into trouble, without getting into problems, and being professional about it, you know. Well, as a matter of fact, we're going to be doing a 102 course. We'll probably get more into setting up your presence online and stuff like that. Because you don't want to build a website that's scary as hell. These people are already scared to death. You don't need to be scared anymore.
Right.
Good point.
You know, you want to put skeletons and skulls and everything else on your website. I'm sorry, you really don't want to do that.
Jack, you know that you could be burned like 100 years ago if you were talking about this kind of stuff.
Absolutely.
Now. Absolutely. And there's a shift in society now. People are open about listening to it, talking about it. And what's your, how do you see the future when it comes to paranormal investigation? Do you think this is going to be something, you know, like we're talking on everyday's life? Do you think that this is going to be a normal subject? What's your take on that?
I actually, it's interesting you asked that question. I'm glad you did, because it's actually becoming a regular topic within some colleges. In Vermont, I think it's Vermont State University. I can't remember which one it is. Anyways, some of the science, oh my God, I wanted to say what they are. They're the scientists, anyways, theoretical physicists, things like that. They're bringing this up in their classes about the paranormal and how it relates to physics and things like that. And it's actually helping them to try to solve some of their theories. So they're using it towards that. And the reason I know that is because we went to an event there. I did an event there a few years back, and I did it a couple of years in a row. And both times, the group of college kids was there with their professors, listening to our lectures and stuff. And we got talking to it. I said, well, what's it all mean? He goes, well, we're trying to teach them about, you know, number one, these kids really want to learn about what is there after this life. I think that's one thing I've noticed is a lot of the new generation has kind of lost its connection to any type of religious beliefs or anything like that.
For sure. Yeah.
They've kind of really gotten away from it. And now they're searching for something to believe in, interestingly enough, you know. But they don't want to get caught up in the standard religions, right? So my thing is, I tell people faith is strength. And I'm not talking about religion. I'm talking about faith, something you can believe in that's bigger than yourself, that's positive, that can protect you. Because when you're talking about investigating in this realm, in spirit world, you're talking about a spiritual realm, right? We're talking about human souls. We're talking about non-human things. We're talking about potentially demonic things that you could be interacting with. So you have to have some faith in something that's going to give you this spiritual protection. And I actually got talking to them about that, and they were all like deadlocked. They were just like, wow, we never thought about any of this. And then they got talking about how it fits into what they're studying, you know, and in regards to physics and things like that. So it got really interesting, and it is happening. So is there beyond TV? I mean, that's the entertainment portion of it. That'll be around. That will come and go, you know. But I think that's part of why I'm trying to teach these classes, to bring it more into like that mainstream of things. That this is something, if you want to delve into spirituality, or if you want to delve into even trying to, some people are more into trying to prove the existence of the afterlife. Well, to do that, you're not just going to do it with, it's a mouse, but let's say equipment, right? You're not going to do it with just hardware. You have to look at this other end of things, this spiritual end of things, to be able to define what's going on, you know, and how does the spiritual end of things connect into that? And I think if you look at what is a soul, it's some type of energy, right? Which is why physics, I believe, is interested in it, because it's some type of energy. What is it, right? So they're trying to figure all that out. So I think there can be, and there may be someday, a connection to that, and you'll in some way be able to prove the existence that your soul, who you are, exists after the body is
And the fascinating stuff about your work is that you provide more than just faith. Like you provide, hard facts. Like all those people, they can't be all lying. There's some elements to it that you can just compare, and you have evidences. Like you don't have actual proof because they all have individual experiences, and you cannot share that. But if you can just cross info those experiences, like you come with the kind of material that people can verify, and this gives hope to people. I don't think anybody would think about committing suicide if they know they're going to suffer more in the afterlife.
Yeah. Or maybe your soul just is lost after that. If you've committed suicide, you're lost. If you're even thinking about that, you're kind of lost already to begin with, right? I mean, mentally wise, things like that. You're struggling with who you are and why you're here and all that. So you're kind of lost that way already. So even if you commit suicide, who you are, and this is my point, who you are still exists after your body is gone. And I'm going to play, I know where this EVP is, and I want to try to bring it up and play it for you.
Sure.
Because to me, this says there's life after death. I mean, this EVP, it may sound weird, it may sound stupid, but I'm going to play it for you, and I'm going to explain to you why I believe that. Let me see if I can find it. I know where it is.
Yeah,
Let me just see if I can pull it up.
Yeah, while you're pulling it up, Jack, when you go into a place, do you feel automatically like there's something going on? Like I kind of have that. Like I've looked at some houses I was gonna buy, and I'm like, man, this place is jacked up. Like I'm not buying this. Somebody died there, dude. Like this place is effed up.
I don't want to live here. Yeah, I do. Yeah, actually, I do get that.
Yeah, I have that too. Like even not even in a structure, I could be like I get a lot of energy. I have 6 acres here. When I'm in my south field, I can feel something there, but I feel that nowhere else on this property. So it's kind of interesting how that happens, right? Yeah.
Yes, it is, and I did find that a CVP. So let me see if I can share.
Oh, good.
It.
Oh, nice.
So I think I could share it from here. Right? Does it allow me to? Because I got the share thing. Let's
you should be able to share it. Yeah, and then it'll let you pick up whatever application you have open there.
Just include audio because I think they default to.
Oh yes, make sure you check that off.
Share system audio. Got it. Yeah.
There we go.
Go to Windows. So I'm going to share this. So I will play this for you. But yes, I've had that exact, which is what I use when I go into investigations. Right. I try to feel does something feel just off here? Does something feel odd? Is one location or one spot different than another? It's like, wow, what's going on in this room? Something's not right.
Yeah.
So, I do get that, and I do get that feeling. All right, so let me see if I can do this here.
I really admire your courage because I did my own research on the EVP, and I started doing my own tests. I got so freaked out. I couldn't go on. I'm scared.
Never investigate your own home. Never investigate your own home. Don't ever do that.
Fuck, I'm not investigating anything.
Because I'll tell you why, and I tell people this all the time. You may have nothing going on in your home, but now that you've tried to communicate with something, you can bring it in.
Yeah.
Oh no, fuck.
Because you don't know where this stuff is coming from. Right?
Yeah, I hope it's not here anymore.
Spirit, I don't know how spirit works, so I'm going to explain this to you. This was on the USS Constitution, Old Ironsides, up in Charlestown, Massachusetts. We got to investigate it in 2010 for 2 nights, and this was before Ghost Hunters ever even did it on their show. We got asked to do it because they were having stuff happening, and our team was really local to them, so they reached out and asked us to investigate the ship for them. So what you're going to hear here is we're on the main gun deck towards the bow of the ship, which is where what they call the manger area. And they used to keep animals there as live food, right? And this is back, you're talking the 1800s. You didn't have refrigeration, okay? There's no refrigeration. It's an old wooden ship, okay? So they had to keep live animals and then butcher them to feed the crew. So the guy's talking about that, and you're going to hear me go, and then you're going to hear this EVP. So I'm just going to play this for you. So I'll get back to it. All right. So could you guys hear that?
No.
Oh, it didn't play through?
No, okay. I was gonna say something, but I didn't know if it was gonna pick up there. So I'm wondering.
I clicked on the thing to play that audio.
Oh man.
Let's see if we can do it again. Oh, you probably know why, because I've got my headset on here.
Yeah, coming through your headset.
Yeah, I just thought of that. So it's coming through that. Let me change what I'm broadcasting with you.
Rogerio, now you're really creeping me out, man. What's going on?
So now I gotta change. I gotta change what I'm broadcasting, what I'm using for audio here. Let me see if I can switch this over. Bear with me.
Yeah, no worries. Take your time. We're known for technical difficulties, so.
Yeah, I hear you.
Rogerio's got the poltergeist behind him. We got this going on. We got.
I see.
It builds a suspense jack though, so I'm glad you built that in. So it's good.
Yeah. Let me see. Let's try this.
Thirsty Tom said that happened
because I could hear it in my headset. So what you guys
gotcha.
Hear it.
Yeah, it says he started to do some EVPs in a spirit box inside his house and thought he had the spirits that he brought in there and somewhere nasty and had a bad vibe, so he ended up moving.
Oh man.
Oh, I wonder if I could do this a different way too. Because there is I know there's well, you'd have to do it from your end. There's a way like you could download it and to StreamYard and play it. Let's see if this works. Hang on.
No.
Did you guys hear that or no?
Nothing.
No.
All right. Well, we tried. Anyways, okay. So what this EVP, I can tell you what it says anyway. I'm just going to stop screen because I'm not sure how to share that audio. I could send you the audio file and you could probably upload it yourself or whatever.
Yeah.
But what it said is you hear this guy's talking about, he goes, cows, pigs, chickens. This is what they kept in this area of the ship. Here we go. Then you hear this other voice, this little kid's voice, young boy, say, and a bear. Now, yeah, we didn't know what that meant when we were reviewing this. And we're like, what the heck is and a bear? So when we played this for the captain and the crew, they're like, Commodore Scrappy. And we're like, what the hell are you people talking about? The Commodore and a bear. He says, and a bear. Commodore Scrappy. It's a black bear cub they kept on the ship as a mascot.
Wow.
Like what?
Right.
Yeah. And this is the thing of it. Now, the boy's voice we caught, actually, one of our investigators saw his face peeking around the door. I didn't see it, but she did. We caught his voice several times on audio over the 2 nights. And there's no little kids with us. It's just me and our team, right? So, and they had also said the crew had talked about seeing a boy on the ship at times, a young blonde-haired boy, which is what our investigators saw. So we're like, that's really interesting. I'm just going to switch my audio back here. You guys hear me okay?
Sounds different. Yeah, it sounds a little different.
Yeah, maybe be a little better, I think, hopefully. So we had caught this kid's voice a few times. And when we looked into that, it's like, there was only 4 boys that ever died on the ship. They actually called them boys. That was their designation on the ship in the 1800s. 2 died of what they called bilious fever, which was dysentery. 1 fell from the mast and 1 drowned. Okay. They all died in the 1800s. The black bear cub was on the ship in the 1930s during the ship's what they called its national tour. Right? It toured the entire United States and a couple other countries. So my thing is, if this kid, he died in the 1800s, how does he know about a black bear in the 1930s? Unless he's still who he is, his consciousness is still there and it's still learning. He still exists. Who he is still exists. So if that's not life after death, I don't know what is. Right? Because he's still learning. He's learned about a black bear. And it's almost like I always say, it's always like when you listen to this EVP, and I'll try to post it up on Facebook at least. Anyway, put a link to it. if he's still learning, I mean, that's pretty crazy because he's trying to give I think he's trying to give the tour because the guy's talking about the animals and kids like, and a bear. Don't forget to tell them about the bear. The bear is
like
pretty
some of my
cool.
kids would do. Yeah, my kids would absolutely
exactly.
do that.
If you're talking about this kid who's maybe 12 or 14, which is what our investigator said, he looked like a 12 or 14-year-old kid, and that's how they described him. The other sailors described him too. Then he would be pretty like excited about that. It's a black bear. Don't forget to tell him about the bear. You know. Yeah. So that's my perspective on that, and I actually can. Give you a link to that.
Sure.
I just gotta find it here. So, anyways, that's actually one of the EVPs I play at my course, my paranormal course I give.
If you do get the link, you can put it into the private chat over there, and then I could share it on my end.
Yeah. That's right.
I'd be able to do that too.
Yeah, we can drop the link below so everybody can listen to it.
Perfect. Yeah, let's try to do that.
Technically, that kid, he's 214 years old.
Exactly. That's it, right? I mean, it's his consciousness, right?
Yeah,
his consciousness is.
Time goes different in other dimensions.
And that's the why I think the physicists are interested too. How does time? Because that's part of their thing is time too. How does time really work? You know, and how does that happen? So a lot of those guys are really interested in how all that works too. You know, and that's why I think they're really interested in all that stuff.
Do you think it was? Do you think it was easier back in the day, Jack, like old times, for spirits to do more imprinting into our living world than it is now? Like, I always say, like, you know, you don't really hear of a lot of called modern day ghost, right? It's always like somebody from that era, like 1800s, 1900s. Do you feel that all of maybe our energy with all of our 5G signal, our Wi-Fi, all of that stuff, maybe making it more difficult for spirits to imprint on modern times, or have you had an experience with some more modern spirits and things?
You know, we have come across people who have, for some cases where people have recently passed, and they're trying to reach out to these people through different electronic devices. So I think it's actually for spirits, and once you can start communicating with even older spirits, I think it's become easier for them to try to talk to us. And you have to, like, when we go in, we don't just throw the equipment out there and start trying to use it. I will walk around the house beforehand, you know, or the building or whatever we're investigating in the ship, and say, this is who we are. This is why we're here. We're going to be having all this type of things you haven't seen before. And I'll carry some of them around and say, this is what this is. Here's how you can try to communicate with it and explain it to them, right? Because some of this stuff, if you're talking about people from the 1800s, 70s, they don't know what this stuff is. Right? But we say it's like, well, it's a little box. I'll say it's a little box that you can talk into. And if you talk really loud, we'll catch your voice, you know, things like that. So sometimes that works, you know, and once they figure it out, and I have noticed sometimes when you go back a second time to one of these locations, you get more communication, because I think by then they figured out that you really want to talk to them and how to communicate through the device, right? They're more receptive to try it anyway. It's just like anybody. It's like you teach somebody something, right? You know, you're a little hesitant to try to mess with it right away because you don't understand it. But once you start to learn it a little bit and somebody shows you, all of a sudden, hey, yeah, this is kind of cool, right? Yeah. It's how computers, right? I mean, I learned on computers. I grew up with computers, right? I was one of that first generation, you know, that we had computers in high school. Yeah. We had 10 of them that were donated by General Electric at the time. So, you know, we were learning basic programming and all that stuff. So I kind of grew up with that stuff. But when, you know, even now, like, here's a for instance. My ex-wife, she had an old cell phone, right? I'm a nice guy, so, you know, so it's my ex-wife. But she had this old flip phone, and she goes, it's not really working well anymore. So I bought her one of the newer type of phones, right? So it was, I think, a Samsung or something like that. She looks at it, she goes, I don't know how to use this. And I said, well, your brother can show you. because I knew he had. Right? So I said, get used to it. He can show you. So now she's starting to learn that, and she's happier with it because now she can like video chat with our kid who's living down in Virginia now and his family, and we just had our first grandson born. So so now she's able to see him over the phone, right, with the video stuff. So now she's happy. Now she's starting to use it. So, but you got to get people. You got to kind of show them how to do it and how to use it, right? So then once they do, they pick up on it. So, and I think that's what Spirit, once you've shown them the first time and you've kind of done some interaction with them, the second time they're ready, right? It's like, when are they coming back?
My wife would totally be that spirit. My wife won't necessarily talk to you the first time she meets you, but the second or third time she'll talk more. So if you ever did an investigation on my house looking for my wife, you'd have to come back a couple of times because that's just her.
Yeah. That's true. That's true even now of anybody. It's just the way it is, It's funny though. It is funny.
I'm gonna try to share this, Jack. I got that there.
Okay.
I don't know. It's not giving the audio option for the Windows Media Player though. So we'll see.
Okay.
Try again. Try again.
We'll try. Right. I really want to hear. I can hear it, and it's creeping me out here. But let's give it a
You
try.
finally heard it, huh?
Yeah. All right.
Yeah. See if
anything.
No, I can't hear it either.
Nah.
Yeah, there's a way to because like I told you, I use StreamYard myself, but there's a way. Who's ever running it, there's a way for you to upload the file and then play it through StreamYard.
No kidding. That would be Joel, but I don't know if he would trust himself to do that. It should be over on the, like pressure. Where when you have the side menu there on the right where it's got
let me try it.
To like stream your things underneath. There's in one of those things. There's a choice to play a video or play a file. I know there is. I do it. That's how I do it on mine.
Well, if you ever go back and watch this show at this moment and you see my eyes light up, it's because I accidentally hit play and I was like, oh, whoa.
What's that? What is it? Wow. Yeah. It's a disembodied. There's a voice on there. Yeah, I got to see if I got one other one I'd like you to listen to as well. And this was the second one. It was from the Fairbanks house in Jack, Massachusetts.
Have you ever contacted any deceased person who was in some way related to you, like a friend who has died or any relative?
I've never tried to contact anybody that I know. Although I will say this, I had a reading done by a very good friend of mine, Becca Boyd. She's a very good friend of mine now. I didn't know her at all at the time. I'd met her. I went to an event and just for fun and stuff. And there was supposed to be a guy giving readings there and he didn't show up. So this other person, Becca Boyd, filled in. I didn't know her at all. And I'm always skeptical about that stuff, but I thought it'd be fun. But by the time I was done, she had me crying because she started off with, well, there's this name, Carol something, just kind of remember. I'm like, okay, whatever. I know two Carols, And so then she started to talk. She goes, oh, you have an autistic son. And I do. And I'm like, well, how'd she know that? That's pretty specific, too. It's not like, oh, you have a child with special needs. No, you have an autistic son. I do. And nobody else there that night knew that. So I'm like, well, I suppose you could look that up on Facebook or something. But she didn't have time, right? She didn't have time for that. So I'm like, okay, this is interesting. You go through the whole thing. She's telling me a whole bunch of stuff that really made sense and stuff like that. And then she goes at the end, she goes, okay, that name, that's your validation. She goes, that name is Carol Ann, and you work with her and travel with her.
Fuck.
And I'm like, my jaw dropped. I'm like, how did you know that? Now, none of my friends knew this because I didn't talk about people at work, right? And she goes, well, it's your mother. Your mother's coming through. Your mother told me that. Now, mother just died 6 months before. And she was the only one that knew that. So I just started crying. I'm like, holy shit.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
She really is, yes. Now, Becca Boyd is one of the very few psychic mediums I recommend to anybody. And it's because of that. And she became a good friend of mine. She actually taught me how to connect with some of my own abilities, things like that. But she was dead on. And to know that, nobody knew that. That's nothing I talk about. It's not that was ever posted on Facebook or social media. The only one that knew that was my mother. So that's like when I one of two things. Either you're reading my mind or you're actually talking with my mother. So
either way, it's impressive, right?
It's pretty goddamn impressive. Yeah. So that's one of the very few, one of only 3 people I ever recommend anybody to get a reading from. And she's Becca Boyd is a 6th generation psychic medium, and she's actually the first that I recommend to people if you ever want to have a reading done, is to go to her, because she'll probably be 100% right. So or at least close to it. I would at least listen to everything she says and write it down, or record it or something. So it's interesting. It's just how that works. I don't know. I've actually been able to give people readings myself. I don't do readings for a living, but I do them on cases, and I've been able to give people information that I'm like, I don't know what this means, but what is it? Here it is. And they're shocked. And it's like, how do you know that? I'm like, I don't know. Somebody's telling me to tell you this. That's all I know. Right. So
I don't know if you're familiar with the name William Crooks.
No, I don't recognize
that. Yeah. He used to be a paranormal investigator, and he was a scientist, and he used to do seances, and he used to go to materializing events, and he was trying to debunk them, and then he became somebody who believed it and wrote about it, and he was a very serious person at the time. I don't know why he's not mainstream, because not many people know about him.
Yeah, I have to. Yeah, you have to post his name up there for me and stuff, or
I will,
because I'd like to read some of what he wrote.
Yeah. Also, I have another documentary I think you would love to see, which is called Afterlife Investigations. People from England, and they're very serious, and the experiments are fantastic, mind-blowing, and that relates to what you do. I think you're going to love it.
Yeah, and that's just it. I mean, it's just, you have to, if you look at it from a serious perspective and you really start looking at things, you can debunk things, you can figure out things that it's not paranormal, it's not this, it's not that. But then there's these things like that kid's voice that you're like, I can't explain that. There was no kids with us. There was 3 of us on that deck at the time. Myself, the bosun's mate who you heard talking, and my other investigator, Sarah, who was down at in the middle of the deck. She wasn't even near us, but that voice is right there with us. So who's that? And that's the interesting thing. I mean, I take a very technical approach to it in a way, because I do work. I'm actually an engineering technician. I work for the Department of Defense. So for me, we do engineering testing, and we do all these different things on weapon systems. So for me, it's like you collect data, then you review that data, and you see if things add up. You see what connects. So like for me, like just presenting that piece of evidence, that's only one thing, but we had multiple things going on those 2 nights. So when you look at it all, we had personal experiences, we had those things we caught, we had visual experiences that we caught as well. And you add all these things up, and it's like 3 points of data. You've got 3 points of data at least. You've caught it on more than one device. You've captured different things. You've got your own experiences, things that happen to you. So you've got these multiple things that add up to something you can't explain. Right?
Yeah, and
that's
the
not
fact
normal.
that there are so many, like crappers out there. That doesn't mean that there are some guys that are real, that are for real. Like you can dismiss all of it.
No.
Maybe I would say it's a very small percentage who are really truly into it.
Right.
The thing is, like you have to go deep enough, to discover by yourself.
Yeah. And the other thing is, I don't try to prove the existence of anything to anybody. I just tell people, keep an open mind. I'm not here to prove that this is real to you. I could, you may listen to that and go, that was just another person talking. So what? Mm-hmm. I can't prove to you what it was. You weren't there. So how am I going to prove? I can only present evidence to you that I believe is actual evidence based on what we did when we were there, us trying to disprove it ourselves, and either find it interesting or you don't. I always tell people, unless you have your own experiences, like Joel, you've had your own experiences, so you know there's something else out there. What it is, who knows? But until you have those experiences, you may never believe it. You know, and sometimes you have it yourself and you still don't believe it. Like me seeing that Bigfoot. I don't know if I still believe it. You know, it's like I don't know. I only saw it once. It only happened once.
Yeah.
Right. So I don't know. I can only tell you what I saw.
Well, to like Rogerio's point too, like, you know, it's like some of the biggest publicity of it too, right? Like the Warren family, right? Like you hear a lot of people like upset with them and how they handle it. I don't know enough about it to go either way with that, but I've heard a lot of people saying that they, you know, manipulate things and whatnot, but it's such a fascinating story that everyone is just drawn to it, right?
Yeah, I would tell you this. I don't think they ever manipulated anything, but like these TV shows, they were, you know, Ed Warren was a great publicity person.
Yeah.
You know, he knew how to get publicity out of it. You know, I think actual evidence that they used to play for people and stuff too, that was real. I mean, they actually captured that stuff. Did they maybe when they gave their lectures and things like that and started getting, you know, other deals and stuff, play it up? Sure they did. That doesn't mean it wasn't real. Right? So, you know, there's two sides to that coin, right? I mean, I think he understood the power of publicity, right? To be able to get his word out there more. But he was a very religious individual. He worked on demonic type cases too. And he truly believed in it. I know it did. I know John Zaffis, his nephew. And John worked with them and studied with them directly. And he'll tell you how they really were. But yeah, there was a publicity side to it, and he just knew how to work that.
Well, it goes back to what you said earlier, right?
You know, I don't know if it's bad.
Well, it goes back to what you said earlier, right? Like you do it to teach people, and some people do it for other reasons, but that doesn't mean it's not real. It doesn't mean they didn't experience that. Right. They just, so.
Yeah, it's no different than anything else you work at, right? Yeah. I mean, everything's, you know, has some publicity side to it. Even buses, even public transportation, right? It's the greatest thing since sliced bread, you know. You know, there's some drawbacks to it, but you know, you got to make it sound good so people use it, right? You know?
And not everybody has to believe it. You know, people who believe in it and they are helped, you know, by you and by some other people.
Right.
That's the whole thing, you know.
And that's all that matters to us.
That means that you're doing your work.
Right.
You know,
right.
There are so many things that are harder to understand. You know, I don't know why the moon is hanging out there. It's not crashing us here. You know,
right.
Like
why isn't gravity pulling it in? Right. I mean, you know,
we can't explain. We can't explain shit. What is electricity? Nobody knows.
That's
what
right.
is gravity? What is gravity? Nobody fucking knows what gravity is. Nobody does.
We know how it works. But we don't know
it does work every time. Yeah, that's it.
About mass and, you know, it's all that stuff. Yeah.
I'm happy with that. You know,
I'm just glad I'm not floating off the earth. That's all. Yeah.
Make investigating pretty hard if you're flying.
Clearly, we have some belief in it because you're our second paranormal guy we've had on the show. Like we're doing this because we're fascinated by it. We have belief in a lot of this stuff. So, it's. I usually talk a lot more on shows than I do tonight. I've been so absorbed into what you're saying, like I haven't said much. So,
I have that effect sometimes. Let me tell you a funny story about filming one time. All right, and I think I have this effect on people. We were filming for Haunted Case Files. I think it was season 2, and I had to tell. I was get into telling this one story. Now, because of where it was located, it's in an old school that was being renovated into apartments and stuff. But you're in the city, so there's roads all around you. So the sound guy is always listening for cars and stuff going by, and got a hole, you know, too much noise, whatever. So I'm telling them the story, and all of a sudden I stop, and they're all just like, "Is everything okay, Mr. Kenna? Are you okay?" I said, "Yeah." You guys didn't hear that truck go by in the background? It was pretty loud. And they all look at the sound guy. He's like, "Oh," he starts mesmerized audio. It's like, oh yeah, that was a loud truck. They were mesmerized. None of them heard it. I'm the only one that heard it. And I'm like, good thing I stopped. They would have lost all that audio. It was funny.
Yeah.
It's just, you can, to be telling us, I guess I'm a good storyteller, right? In a way. And maybe the books show to that stuff too, but I can tell a story and people just get mesmerized by it, and I even started what do you want to call it? I guess a kind of a story that's still been going around, of local folklore or something like that. One Halloween, talking about Halloween. It was Halloween. I had my kids with me. A couple of their friends were with us, and I was starting to take them home. They were all like maybe 12, 14 at the time. So we're coming past the old park down by me, and there's this section of woods down below. And I'm walking around, and all of a sudden I just catch sight of this old little shack. Probably the kids built to go drinking in. The older kids probably built it to go drinking and stuff in.
Sure. And
I spot this old shack and down in the woods. I said, "Hey, did you guys ever hear the story about that old shack down there?" They're like, no, what? I said, well, years ago, before I was even born, there's an old bum lived down in that shack. I start telling this whole story about this bum and how everybody kind of left him alone, nobody bothered him and stuff. But all of a sudden, kids would start disappearing on Halloween. Nobody knew what was happening. Until one time, this woman was with her kids, and this clown came out of the woods and started trying to lure the kids down, and she yells at him and screams, and he lets the kids go, and she calls the cop. The cops come down. They all get around his old shack down there. There ends up being a gunfight. He gets killed. Cops go in, and there's all these bones and bodies of the kids from over the years. He had been killing them and eating them. They believed it. They all believed it. And I even told her this. I said, I'm only kidding, right? And my one son didn't believe it. He's like, stop with the story. Their friend believed it. He's like, all the way home. He's like, no, I heard that story. I'm pretty sure I heard my parents talk about it. That spread around to this day. I guess in the high school, kids still talk about.
I think that shack's in town here, Jack. I think it's right down the street.
I tell you,
so it's so fun.
Yeah. It got to the point where kids were even seeing the clown in the woods, even though he had died in the story. I don't know, but it still goes around to this day. My kid was telling me about it. He goes, that story still goes around to this day. I'm like, you're kidding me? He goes, no, because he was a substitute teacher for a while down at the high school after he graduated. He was going to college. Summer, he'd come back for part and he'd start doing some substitute teaching. They still talk about it, how the bum killed the kids down in the. Like, oh my God! I started an urban legend. That's
there you go. Yeah.
Awesome.
That's awesome.
I don't see that on your IMDb. I think you need to add that to your repertoire.
Should I add that to the resume? Yeah,
man, that's a comic book right there.
Started an urban legend. And,
John's over here taking notes. Like, what did he look like? How tall was he?
I didn't describe it too well. I just said, it's just like a clown. That's all.
Have you ever thought? Have you ever thought of doing an audio version of the book? Because you're a nice storyteller. When we listen to you, we want to know what comes next, and maybe you can imprint that.
Well, I am being bothered. People are bugging me. When's the second book coming out and stuff like that? And I am working on it slowly but surely. I am working on it. So I've got like 2.5 stories written so far, and it's just like. Sometimes I've been doing so many other things lately. Now I've got a grandkid and stuff like that. So I've been distracted. But I really have to just sit down and start writing again. I still work for a living. So maybe when I retire, I can really sit down and do it. But when I wrote that book, when I wrote Hauntings, Ghosts, and Demons and the other one, I'd be working till 3 or 4 in the morning and then get 2 hours rest and get up and go to work. And I don't think I can do that anymore.
That's what we do. That's John and I's reality.
Those guys.
I'm 58 years old. It's hard for me to do that anymore. In fact, it was funny because I was funny on Haunting Ghosts and Demons. I had a friend, reading it for me, checking it for me, and she goes, "I got to bring up this one part because I think there's a whole section missing." I go, "What are you talking about?" She goes, "Yeah, read this," and it was like 2 paragraphs missing that I thought I wrote. And I had been writing that about 2:30 in the morning. And I must say, all I could say was, I must have thought I wrote it and didn't.
or you fell asleep and like accidentally deleted a couple paragraphs.
Maybe. I mean, it could have been that too. Maybe I decided to delete it and I'd go back to it or something.
It's
like, oh my God. Yeah, good thing I had her proofread it, you know? So, because
that's so magic. That's so magic.
Right. I just sit and write. Okay. When I just sit down and start writing, I don't outline nothing. I just sit down. That's how I do it. I sit down and I just start writing what starts coming to my head. And that's how I write. You know? And I'll carry the story through as I'm writing it. So I think of it in my head and as I keep going. And people go, how do you write that way? I said, that's just the easiest way for me to write. You know, I write the story in my head and then just start typing.
That's what Stephen King does. He doesn't outline, you know, and look how successful he is, right?
That's true. A lot of people. I mean, some people just do it that way. It's just how it works. You know?
Yeah.
And then I'll change things as I'm writing it. Like if I don't like, it doesn't sound right, and I'm not sure where to go with that next, I'll delete it and start, you know, going through that paragraph or that sentence. And then move forward. So yeah, it's possible I deleted them and forgot about it too. But my point is, it's not always good to write at 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, but you know that there's a thing called false memories. Sometimes we build false memories, and we can distinguish which ones are real, which ones were just created. Because you know, like when memories, they can be easily, you know, made up.
Yeah.
When you remember the past, you are kind of rewriting it, and probably you've done it. You know, just
I mean, we remember it a certain way, right? You know, that doesn't mean necessarily that's the way it actually happened. Which can go into witnesses and things like that when people are interviewing witnesses, and you know, you got to put it all together. What's the truth and what is just what somebody thinks they remember, you know. And I found myself doing that. It's like, wow, I really thought it happened that way, but it happened a completely different way. And sometimes that's when when I'm going through investigations, and I think I remember something we did one way, and then there's a video of it showing it happened a different way.
Yeah.
And it's like, wow, I don't remember it. Oh, well, there it is. You know, it's literally there on film. So I guess that's what happened.
I have that happen with my parents a lot too. You know, I'll be like, yeah, I remember doing this as a kid, and like my mom would be like, no, you weren't that good. No.
I hit that home run and it went flying out of the park into the neighborhood next door. No,
exactly.
It really dribbled over the fence. Okay.
Yeah.
Or actually, you got it. It was an infield home run. You actually never hit it outside the fence.
It was actually an error. It was an error that went between the kid's legs. You know, you went around the bases.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, something like that. Darn it! I thought I hit it all the way out of the park. No.
You must get a lot of. You must get a lot of demand, Jack, for people wanting you to come in and do investigations. How do you qualify something to actually go to with your team and spend your time? Is there like certain parameters you guys are looking at, or
it's a 13-page form people have to fill out first. We have a 13-page form people have to fill out because we don't charge for any investigation. We don't charge for it at all.
Yeah. Right.
So we have this 13-page form that asks a ton of information, including medications you're on. You know, not just paranormal experiences, but if you had any trauma in your past, anything, all this stuff. So they've got to fill that out and send it back to us before we'll go anywhere. Right. And there's a couple of reasons for that. Number one, it does weed people out. People who just want to come and meet you, as compared to people who really need your help. And then number two, what it does is all that information helps us to figure out what's going on. Because sometimes it can be related to their medications, some of the things they're experiencing. Or I will tell you this, one thing I know for a fact is most people who fill this out, they're very honest with it. When they really want help, they're very honest with it. They will tell us about any mental illness they have. They'll tell us about any traumas. And usually we find there's a connection between hauntings and people with I don't want to just say mental illness, but mental issues and traumatic events, serious traumatic events in their past. it's been a one-to-one connection for every case we get back like that. And I think there's a reason for that is people hold this negativity in. Okay. They don't, like, usually when we talk to them, have you talked to a counselor about this? Have you seen it say, oh, no, I just dealt with it myself? No, you didn't. You buried it inside. So now you've got all this negativity in you. And you can actually, in some cases, be experiencing PTSD. And it's not even a haunting. Or in many of the cases, these negative things are attracted to this negative energy that they're holding. Okay. So you have negative spirit that's attracted to this negativity, because that's a lot of energy. And it could even be just a regular spirit that's attracted to all this energy that this person is kind of outputting. They don't even realize they're putting it out. Right. But you're holding all this negative energy in it. It's pretty strong. It's pretty powerful, which is why it affects people's lives. Right. I mean, trauma you've been through can affect you the rest of your life, unless you work through it. You're never going to forget it. You're never going to, not have to face it once in a while, but you're going to be able to learn to deal with it. And it doesn't have to affect how you live the rest of your life if you can get through that. But you need help, right? You need professional help to get through that. And sometimes medications and things, right? So we did find a connection that way. So all these people who have had all these things have these real hauntings going on usually have something else, an underlying reason why it's happening, right? So part of an actual investigator like what I am and what our team does is convincing these people to go get this help they need. Because we're not psychiatrists or psychologists or anything like that. We're not doctors. But I can convince them, look, to really get past this and to deal with this and truly eliminate your haunting, you're going to have to get help. And those that do, their lives turn around. It's interesting to watch somebody's life go from a living hell to everything's going great. Because now they're getting the help they needed. And we can help get rid of the haunting, but they've got to do their part to try to help resolve it too, which is get help with all these issues that you have. I always say that scares them more than the haunting is when I tell them, yes, you're going to have to work with this. You're going to have to do your part to help resolve the haunting. What do you mean I got to do something? Yeah, you're going to have to do something. I'm going to make recommendations to you, and you're going to have to actually do something, and
yeah, kind of
it scares people more. Never mind, I'll live with the haunting. Never mind, I have to do something. I'll live with the haunting.
Right? Yeah, people want the easy out. Give me a pill I can take, and the thing goes away.
Yeah,
how do you end up?
Magic, well, it's always I call it the magic wand. They want you to wave the magic wand and make it all go away. It's like it doesn't work that way, people.
Yeah, nice and easy. Yeah, like I want to go to the gym. I just want to drink a shake and I'll lose weight. Like it's all good.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Or take a pill or whatever.
How do you take care of a haunting? Like, what is the process to like clear a spirit or clear out a home? What does that look like, and how do you guys know that it's successful at that point when the thing's out of there?
Well, I mean, sometimes there's things you can get rid of. Sometimes there's things you can't get rid of. Like I said, if something is residual, like we talked about earlier, it's trapped in like the wood and the materials. It's just going to keep reoccurring. It's not a ghost, right? It's just things that are going to reoccur under certain conditions over and over again. So that type of stuff, you can't get rid of it because it's not intelligent. It's not a ghost. It's just energy that's trapped within the materials of the home itself or the grounds of the home. So, yeah, you can hear people walking up down your stairs, but people do it all the time anyway. That's why it's trapped there. That's why those noises are trapped, right? So it's not a ghost. Don't worry about it. It's not going to hurt you. Just ignore it. And sometimes that's the best you can do. With regards to spirit, sometimes we'll either call in a psychic medium to assist with that, to try to help remove the spirit, or we'll do cleansings, or which is involving like sage and white sage and different types of other incenses and materials. And you got to work within the person's belief systems too. Not everybody's Catholic. I've dealt with people who are Jewish. I've dealt with people who are Indian, and Muslims, and all this stuff. So you got to help them work within their own beliefs to help get rid of these things, right? Because what's going to work for one is probably not going to work for another. But I do find that more pagan type rituals tend to work like across the board. And I think it's because it's more broad. Yeah, it's a more broadened thing. A lot of religions kind of use different things like incense or noise, sounds to cleanse areas. So I think those things tend to work a little bit better.
Does opening the windows, is that a real thing when they say like open the windows and burn
when you're cleansing a home, you need to open the windows and the doors, because what you're trying to do is get energy. You're just talking about energy. You're trying to cleanse that energy or that spirit, if you want to talk about it, out of the home. So if all your windows are closed, all your doors are closed, all you're doing is moving it around. It's like think of it like dusting, I guess. I can take a cloth and just dust, and I'm just making the dust go everywhere. Or I can get one of those ones that's like it clings to it, and I can throw it out after, right? So, but you're trying to get it out of the house. So you open the windows and doors, and you work in a clockwise direction through the home. Usually what I'll do is I'll start. Yeah, I mean, usually what I do is I start in the basement, and then I'll go to if there's a second floor, I'll go to the second floor, move everything down to the main floor, and then cleanse it out from the main floor. All right. So and then all that smoke, all that stuff, it's all going out the windows, right? So you're cleansing things out, you're pushing it out. Now you've got it outside the home. There's different things you can do for the property too. Like if somebody's got stuff going on the property, you can put like white quartz in the four corners of the property, and that'll absorb.
I have white quartz here. That's really interesting you say that, because I absolutely have that here, which is strange because I found that clearing off some rock walls in New England, and I'm like, why the heck is there this white quartz in the corner? I do have that. That is legit.
Somebody's put it there for protection. Leave it.
And Joel moved.
All right,
Joel moved it.
Yeah. Put it back. If you took it out, put it back. Yeah.
No, I haven't. I don't touch anything. Yeah.
Somebody was doing a cleansing.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's what somebody was doing.
No kidding.
Doing a protection around the home. Yeah, that's what they were doing.
My cemetery is lined in white quartz all the way around the edge. And I was like, oh, somebody spent some money like tricking this thing out in like 1830 because it's like kind of fanciful, right? It was like
they're protecting it.
Well, because they believe the white quartz would keep the energy in, keep the spirits in. It acts as like a barrier.
Interesting.
And actually, quartz does. Quartz attracts energy, right? It can absorb energy.
Yeah.
Salt. That's why you hear them talk about making a circle of salt. Well, there's actually a little bit of real science behind that. Salt is a conductor. Now, if we believe spirits are just electrical type energy, salt will attract electrical energy. It will trap it. So it can't get out of the circle. Once it gets trapped within that circle of salt, it's kind of stuck there. It's like a conductor. You could probably say, okay, I'll make a circle of copper wire. Right? It's a conductor, so it's going to absorb that energy before it gets to you. Okay, so that's why things don't cross it. We had a mirror that had a portal in it that I couldn't take care of right away. So, and the guy there was something coming in and out of that mirror. So what we did is I had it in his basement. I put a circle of salt around it and left it. And he had no trouble. He had no activity during that whole time until I could get back and kind of close the portal in that mirror. So because it couldn't get out, it's trapped because of the salt. Yeah, it sounds weird.
Wow.
But there is some real science behind it.
Yeah, speaking about salt,
I learned something new. See, that's awesome. That's cool. I thought they were just kind of being baller in like 1830, like, yo, I'm going to spend some money and hook up my graveyard with some sweet white quartz, but it makes
it looks nice
sense.
too. Yeah, it does.
Right?
And until Joel's kid comes back to the house, look at the rocks I found, Daddy, and you're like, no.
I'll be calling Jack, like, yo, like.
Now the vampires can get out of that cemetery. See that? Yeah, that was to keep the vampires in. That's what that was.
Right.
Probably was.
You mentioned earlier on that you had like not many, but it was very rare to contact demonic, entities, and like what is your standard to establish that it's not a bird person, it's a demon? Like do you do any kind of tests
How do you figure a demon from a negative spirit? Is that what you're kind of getting at?
Yeah, from a very negative spirit. Sometimes you can have a very negative spirit, and
right.
They can,
and they can pretend. And I've run into that too. Yeah, we have run into that too. The difference there is, like a negative spirit, they may possess a person for a short period of time. Like they may be able to jump in, mess with them for, I don't know, just say a short period of time, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, and then they run out of energy, so they have to leave. They may cause more problems just within the home. It's more to try to get the person to leave, right? They're not trying to kill them or get them to kill themselves. But a demon, actual demon, its whole purpose is to get you to take your own life. It's to take your soul, right? That's what they want to do. That's a whole different process, and there's a whole different thing behind it. And in actuality, as an investigator, when you go into a demonic case, and you there's usually a couple tells, but usually when you go in to investigate, you would think there's absolutely nothing happening in that home. Nothing. No haunting, no nothing. It's very quiet. And the reason for that is they want you to leave. They want you to think there's nothing here. These people are crazy. Just leave. So it can go back to, so it can go back to doing what it was doing to them. So, but it takes a long time to determine a true demonic haunting. And that's usually a tell too. It's like, this has taken a long time to try to figure out. I can tell you something that does usually happen when you're dealing with a real demonic case. It's not always a possession case. It can be just a person is suffering an oppression, right? So this thing is oppressing them. There's different tells to that. But one thing I do notice is every time I go on a case like that, and it doesn't happen very often, again, I've had 3 to 4 of them. My GPS tries to tell me to turn around and go home. Make a U-turn. Make a U-turn. Jeez. Make a U-turn. And I have to restart the whole system again. And then sometimes it'll still go and change the day. I had this happen. I was on my way there to one of these cases for the 4th time. And all of a sudden, the date and time changed. It told me it was a completely different day at an earlier time. In other words, is this the right day? Wait a minute, I'm not supposed to be there till whatever. Date and time changed on the system. It's the only times I've had it happen in cases like that.
So do you think the date there was any relevance to the date, or just like throwing you off?
Just trying to throw me off.
Yeah.
Like different day, different time. No, you're not supposed to be there yet. Again, go home.
Right.
Yeah, because it was like 2 days. It changed to like a day. I think a day and a half or 2 days earlier or something like that. It was weird. It's like, I know what day it is, for God's sakes, So, but that's the only time it's happened is on those cases. I've never had my GPS system mess up otherwise.
I have to tell you, this is so fascinating that I would volunteer to be part of your team. Because it is fascinating.
Most cases are pretty boring. Let me tell you, most cases are pretty boring.
But when you have some that are good. Yeah.
Well, again, those cases you think there's nothing going on once you get there. You think these people are nuts.
It's a great subject. Because that involves.
It's interesting when you're working cases. Everyone's different, and they're not all the same because you're dealing with different people, right? And I think that's the most fascinating thing is the people that reach out to you for help. I've had some crazy people. I've had some very normal people. I mean, you wouldn't think they would even be involved with this type of stuff, but they are. I had one woman who was, she had both her husband pass away and her one son had committed suicide in her home. And for many years, she would use her spirit board and contact them. And went on for years, never had a problem. Right?
You mean the Ouija board?
Yeah, spirit board, Ouija board. Yeah, and never had a problem. And then she calls us because she sent us photos. She was black and blue. She was bleeding. And she had to go to the hospital. She had all this kind of crazy stuff going on. And it's like, and she admitted to using the Ouija board. And I'm like, well, when did this, we're trying to dig into this because it didn't make sense. Suddenly this shouldn't just, because she was always very specific about talking to her husband and talking to her son. And her one daughter had done it with her. The other daughter didn't like that stuff and stayed away from it. But I'm like, I'm not getting this. This isn't making sense. When we were there, we were trying to contact, and we seemed to make contact with her son. And, but there was really nothing negative we could pick up on. And I'm like, is there any other time you use this board that you didn't have it at home? And it was that night of the investigation. She goes, well, there was one time. She goes, I took it to my friend's camp up in Maine, and it was me and 4 of my friends, and one's husband had just passed away. So I said, oh, I'll bring my Ouija board and we can contact your husband. And they were trying to do it, and she goes, and something really negative came through, and it started saying F you, and got really all this crazy words coming through and all this mean stuff. So I said, well, what'd you do? She goes, well, we all got scared. We closed up the board and I threw it in the back of my car and brought it home. I said, did you end your session? She goes, what? I said, yep, that's what I thought. Nobody closes a session. They don't know what that means. You have to end the session and tell whatever's there to go, you can't come home. Don't follow this. And you should. There is actually ways. You're supposed to do prayer before, whatever your beliefs, that could keep anything negative from coming through. They didn't do any of that. She brought it home with her from up in Maine. Whatever it was, whatever came through that board came with her back home. And because I asked her, I said, well, when did this other activity start? She goes, oh, like a few days later. There you go. You brought it home from this other place.
My dad, my dad was a minister. He would never even allow one of those in the house. He was like, don't ever bring one of those into the house. So he knew, right, that carry some stuff, but he's like, as a kid, it's kind of fun to mess around with that stuff. He's like, no,
we did it too. Trust me, I did it. We did it too.
Yeah, right.
But there's proper ways to use it. I mean, it's actually no different than what you see guys use on TV, the K2s. I don't care what you're using. Actually, nothing of it is different than using a spirit board or Ouija board. You're trying to communicate with the dead. I don't care how you're doing it. You're opening a session of communication with people who have passed on. You don't know what's going to come through. You really don't. I can't tell you what's going to come through. But there's certain processes you can do to try to keep negative things from coming through. And there's people who know how to do that. I never studied it. I have friends who have. There's a place up in New York, Lilydale. You ever hear of Lilydale, New York, where all the spiritualism is? Mm-hmm. Well, they will teach you how to properly work with a Ouija board.
Wow.
So that nothing negative comes through. And I got a couple of friends of mine that know that. They have studied that and they do it. And there's a proper way to do it. I just don't mess with them. But I still, even when using the equipment I use, I do things like prayer before I go on an investigation. That's my belief system. I do that and stuff for protection. I also carry different types of stones and crystals with me that can offer protection, like white quartz. It absorbs energy.
Like obsidian stones, or
what's that? I'm sorry.
The black obsidian? Is that the name of?
Black tourmaline is the one that's good for protection. Black tourmaline. Okay. Some people bring obsidian. Yes. I use black tourmaline and white quartz because both of those are kind of things that absorb energy. So it'll absorb anything negative or anything that's trying to get at you. But I also use prayer and stuff like that. So again, it goes back to what I talked about, faith. Your faith is where your strength comes from. That's what's really going to protect you. Having faith in something stronger than yourself.
That kind of answer my question that I was about to ask you. It's like I was about to ask you, like, you're not afraid in any way that some of those guys, because you've been upsetting a lot of people because you're taking that you're taking that meat away.
They know my name on the other side. Trust me, I get my name a lot. So
So like, you're not afraid of bringing those guys to your house or to haunt you or to disturb your sleep.
No.
So like
it's draining. I will tell you, the energy. It's draining. Like you do an investigation, they call it the paranormal hangover, right? You're exhausted for a few days after. That's because of the energy that you're putting out, and it can also be drained from
Actually, you give away your energy as well.
I don't. No, I don't. I don't offer it up. No,
No?
I do not offer up my own energy. I will
So
tell
you feel that you're blocked from that?
I try. Yeah, I try to block myself from it. I use like a white light technique to put white light around myself. That it's the light of my faith. Okay, that can put around me to protect me, to repel that kind of stuff, or keep something from coming in. There is times I won't do that in order to try to find out what's going on, and that's actually people say you're out of your mind, because that's usually on the more negative cases, because I'm trying to find out what's really going on. So you kind of like want to feign that you don't know what's going on. So it's but if you've practiced enough, you can put those barriers up fairly quickly. Once you sense that energy, and that's really what you're feeling for, is that type of energy. What kind of energy is coming through? And if you feel something negative coming through, you can put that energy out and kind of put that block on. And again, if you have strong faith in something, it's going to protect you.
So
as well. Otherwise, I wouldn't do demonic type cases at all.
Yeah, you do believe in a higher power.
I do. Yeah. Well, again, I'm Roman Catholic, so I believe in Jesus Christ and I believe in God and all that. That's my own belief system. But that's where my faith is in Christ. Okay, so that's where my faith is. Other people have faith in other types of. I have friends who are pagans. I have friends who are witches. And they're on the positive end of things. So they have faith in that, and that protects them too. Again, it's just about having faith in something, right? Something positive that can protect you from something negative, right? I joke around because I tell people, I don't care if you have faith in Mickey Mouse. Mickey Mouse will protect me. Okay, he'll probably protect you. He's pretty nice, he's Mickey Mouse. He's kind of positive.
I like Jobu on a.
I do believe in.
It's just a joke, right? It's a joke.
I do believe in Jesus, and I don't think he would mind if you believe in Mickey Mouse, because he would help you anyway.
I think he would too. I think he would too. So but that's my point. You have to have, working in this field, you have to have real faith in something that's going to protect you from these very negative things. I mean, everybody knows me as Jack Kenna, but that's not my given name. And I have had my given name come across devices by something that doesn't sound very nice. So they know who I am, right? They know my name. They know who I am. And is that a concern? Yeah. But then again, I have faith that Christ will protect me. I feel like, I'm doing that work to try to help people. So he'll try to protect me because I'm trying to help his people, right? So all people. It doesn't matter what you believe in.
Yeah.
I'm going to try to help you. So you have that protection to a point.
Do you ever come across haunted objects too, not just people or places? Has there been anything like, hey, this is a cursed whatever, and have somebody work with that with you? And
I've had people give me stuff like that, and I've taken it away from them, and they've seemed to not have problems after. Then again, I've never noticed anything with it. Of course, a lot of times I'll bless those things, stuff like that. So maybe that, puts it away. But I usually do. Like if somebody gives me something like that, I'll leave it in my hallway for several weeks just to see if anything happens. The stuff getting moved on my back hallway, is it getting, or out in the garage? I'll put it out in the garage. Anything weird happening out there? Usually, I've not noticed anything, but it could be just connected to that person. So. Sometimes somebody has something that affects them that it really doesn't seem to affect anybody else. So I've had those types of things. I have had some, not many, but a few haunted objects. From the one possession case, I actually do have a Ouija board that the girl had used. And that's where I think it came through to her. That demonic thing kind of used that as a reason to go to her. But that board I blessed and everything else before we even took it out of the house there. Before they gave it to us. She goes, take it, I don't want it. So I blessed all that and everything else before I took it out, and told whatever came through, you're not coming with me, so where you're going, but you're not going with me. It didn't come through, and I've had no problems with that either. But people think it's kind of weird or interesting because it was used in an actual possession case, So
I used to
sometimes
do a
it's
lot
just
of being
Sometimes it's just an item. Yeah, it has really. Demons don't usually attach to things per se. They want to attach to the person. That's their point. They want to attach to the person. They want to end up, driving that person insane or getting them to commit suicide. So they typically don't attach to an item, although the energy can be left with that item, right? That negative energy can be left with that item, but it's not the demon or whatever itself, right? I don't believe.
Sure.
Yeah. That leads me to my next question. It's like, what do you think that would be the origin of evil? Because that doesn't seem wise to be devoted to evil for thousands of years. Like if we do believe in the existence of demonic entities, it's like, fuck, are they that dumb? Because you're not learning anything because you've been suffering. Because when you're evil, you suffer. Like, how can you suffer for so long? Have you ever envisioned an answer to that?
I mean, they have their own agendas for why they do things. I mean, if you go, it depends on what you believe in and what you're. I mean, they are just pure evil themselves. Okay, these things are just evil. Right, they're the essence of evil. Again, they don't like hell themselves. You're talking about demons in the Catholic sense. They don't like hell themselves, even though they created it. But they want to rule. They want to rule everything. They want to make others as miserable as they are. Okay, misery loves company. The old saying, misery loves company. What's their origin? I mean, you can go by the Bible's origin. There's other religions that believe in other origins of them. There's other religions that don't even believe in demons, okay, at all. So, but yet I run into stuff that's, whether they call it a demon or not, but it's something extremely old and extremely evil. And it just wants you to die, and it wants to take your soul. But I think they've existed since the beginning of time, or since the beginning of the universe. Did God create them? Maybe. I don't know. I don't have those answers, right? None of us has those answers until maybe we
I don't think anybody does.
Yeah, but they were never human. They're eternal. So, you could say they're suffering, but to them, it could be the blink of an eye. If they're eternal, maybe suffering to them is like when we go into the hospital for something really bad and we're in there for a month. Right? Maybe that's all it is to them. I don't know. But I know they want to make you suffer.
I was just going to say, do you think, is there any scenario where you think when there's a demonic possession situation where is it just them wanting to harm who they're possessing, or are they wanting them to harm others? The mix. No, I was just gonna say, basically doing, harming people close to them, or even not people close to them. Just like, hey, I don't know.
I think it's both. I mean, they'll take whatever they can get. I mean, like with the one case I told you that we had, the one possession case. I mean, the mother, I believe, was originally, oppressed by this thing, and it was working on her for years. But when she had her kids, then it was looking for a way to get to her kids, because I had asked her one time, because her daughter tried to commit suicide too. I said, well, what would have happened if your daughter had committed suicide? She goes, I probably would have killed myself. I said, okay, 2 for 1.
Mm-hmm.
It would have got them both, right? And then she had another son, so who knows? He may have committed suicide after that too, because he lost his mother and his sister, and he had nobody left. Right? So who knows? I mean, I think they'll just, whatever suffering they can cause, they'll cause it. If they can get more than one person. I think they like to. It seems almost they like to focus on one person, because in actuality, by focusing on that one person, they make everybody else's lives within that family miserable too, right? Because it affects everybody, even to just. And I got another friend of mine who's an exorcist now, spiritual warrior, and he was he dealt with a demonic haunting, and he really was being oppressed by something demonic, where he lost his whole family. He was left by himself. Everybody left him, and that's all he had. He said his was interesting because all he had was that demon. So that demon became his friend because that's all he had. And it would pretend to be other people. It would pretend to be his brother who he hadn't seen in years. And I'm coming to help you, blah, blah, blah. And then and then it would show its true face to him and laugh at him. I fooled you, and make him more depressed, things like that. And actually, he wrote his own book. Jeffrey Leeper is who I'm talking about. And now he's a spiritual warrior. He's a demonologist and an exorcist. So helping other people. He finally, a friend of his who he knew in the paranormal field was one and was able to help him get him out of that and saved his life. Hey, Jeff will tell you, the guy saved my life. So sometimes it works the other way. You finally get the help you need, and and now you can turn around and begin to help others. And that's one thing we run into too, is a lot of people want to get, like, who are experiencing hauntings and stuff like that. We'll get into discussion. Goes, this is what I want to do. I want to help people. It's like, you can't help anybody because you can't help yourself right now. First thing you got to do is resolve your own issues before you can start helping others.
Do you not think that Satan is a very interesting character? It's interesting because he wants to defy God. God is all powerful. You can't win it. I have a lot of respect for Satan because he's doing a fight that he cannot win.
Yeah, and he knows it, but he's going to do it anyway because he just he wants to be. Well, he wanted to be God, right?
He's
to be God.
I do think he's a samurai in some way.
Yes. That's a good point.
I used to practice martial arts, and I was never good at it. But I used to fight those guys that I knew right away I'll be knocked out. But I would still do it. So I was the kind of Satan because I'm defying God, and I'm gonna fucking lose. What's the reason? There's no reason to go to a fight if you're not, you can stand a chance, But I should do it.
Well, you got to remember, these things aren't. But you remember, they're not human either. They don't think the way humans do.
It's the law.
They're immortal.
Yeah,
he's immortal though. He's got eternity to be able to keep.
Maybe Satan has a law for the fight, and I do respect that.
Progress, not perfection. Just a little bit at a time.
Yeah.
But he's not going to progress because, look, God is God. He's fighting. He has lost already, and it's written. So
I actually had a conversation with that one that we had to deal with, and it just came up that I was able to kind of ask a couple questions. One question I asked that it finally gave the answer to is like, well, why don't you ask for God for forgiveness? Because you didn't want to go back to hell. I said, why don't you ask for God to forgive you, and go back home, go back to heaven.
Yeah.
And it said God can't forgive me, and that's actually a true statement because they can't be forgiven because Christ didn't die for their sins. Christ died for the sins of humans. Right? And that's the only way we're being able to forgive them is because Christ died for us on the cross. That's why we can be forgiven. But he didn't die for the angels. He never died for their sins. Because remember, demons, demonics, if you believe the Catholic thing, demons are actually angels that went against God. Right? So they're cast out. Right? But they're still angels. They have all the same powers. God never took their powers away. They have all the same powers that the other angels have.
I don't know. If I were God, I would say, all right, it's okay. Come on with us.
He might, but according to them,
it's been a few thousand years. I thought things over.
Yeah,
I kind of hear where you're coming from, right?
But you can't be forgiven if you can't be forgiven if you don't ask, right? You can't be forgiven if you don't ask, and they don't believe they can.
Come on over. We'll have some beers. Maybe take it to Six Flags. We'll have a weekend of it. We'll talk it through.
You are a hard worker. It's time to surrender.
I will say this though, I did we did hear it when we were exercising it from the mother, and I heard it. It's in its voice. It actually did ask God to forgive it.
Wow.
I don't think it was, and I don't think it was though, because it tried to come back again later on, some months later, and we had to do another deliverance. It wasn't a possession at that point, but it tried to come back to repossess the mother, and we had to do another deliverance on her. So it's the same one. So it did scream out for forgiveness, and I don't think it was forgiven. But it did try to ask, because what hell goes to show you they don't want to be in hell either. They created it, but they don't want to be there. So it's strange things. So that whole thing is, I mean, there's so many avenues you could go down with that. I mean,
yeah, it's a bad.
Theologians talk about this stuff all the time, right?
Yeah.
Can demons be forgiven by God? Can they not? There's whole discussions of that. Some people do believe they can. Others say, well, they can't. I mean, I can only go by what that thing itself said, that God won't forgive it. So it might know better than I do. So,
yeah, right.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't have the faintest idea what God would be, because he's the guy who has created the multiverses, not
Right.
only our universes,
right.
and God is a lot bigger, and I don't think he has ever got enraged. God does not get mad, because he's
Right, the God of old, but the God of old was, he was.
Yeah, I don't, the Bible was written by man, and
Right.
God is something bigger than that. That's that interpretation, because
Right.
things can get kind of.
Right. But there was a time before Christ
scribbled.
that God was a vengeful God. God wasn't a forgiving God before Christ came along, right? He was a vengeful God.
Yeah, Christ came with a not a new version, but a bigger, version of God. And Christ was talking to people who were not into science. They were really rough type of people.
There wasn't a lot of well-educated people back in his day.
No way.
Not everybody went to high school, even. I mean,
No, he had to.
In fact, there was no high school.
Had to be very careful, because he could be dead before he was 20. And he was very smart. The parables and all the metaphors, they were perfect to this day.
He was a well-learned individual.
Yeah, fuck. That's so.
Of course, he was God on earth too. So he
sure.
was. If you go with the belief, he was God on earth, so he already knew everything.
Do you think a writer could create a character like that at the time? So unpredictable? I don't think so.
I don't know. I mean, I know there's people who say it was just a character that was written and stuff like that. But then again, there is some history on it, actual history from Pilate, who describes Christ before him. Doesn't give a really good description, but so I do believe he was a real person. Could somebody make it up that he was, all this beyond what a human could be? I don't know. I mean, there's been a lot of good story writers along the ways, but I don't think this was made up. No, I don't think it was a story that was made up. I do believe there's other things that were written that are probably true as well that were left out of the Bible. And that was when parts from when Christ was a child, when he was a kid growing up. I forget what writings those were, but they were left out of the Bible because he actually did some pretty mean things to some other kids. So, and I could see that, he came to Earth as a human. So if he's going to live like a human, kids can be kind of cruel at times. So I can see where, as he's growing up, and his father probably beat his ass for him. He's like, you ain't, no. Can't do that.
Yeah, I can imagine just he's perfect, to never talks back to his parents or fights with his friends.
I doubt it. He was, he came to live as a human. He was here as a human, He came in human form, right? So he was God on earth, but in human form. Because he had to live like one of us in order to die like one of us to forgive our sins. So he'd be just as almost as infallible. I mean, as a result, why else would Satan try to tempt him? right? If he couldn't be tempted, right? So he must have been tempted at other time for other things.
That was a great passage.
Yeah, it is, and actually that's an interesting one, because if you read it, I do believe it says God sent Satan to oh my God, my mind just went blank. But anyways, God sent Satan to tempt Christ.
Yeah.
So what's that mean? So, well, it tells you one thing: Satan was still answering to God. He didn't do it on his own. He was sent there to do it. Right? Of course, he tried to corrupt him, but he couldn't. Right? So, but he was sent. Satan was sent by God to do that. So even Satan had his own part to play in all that.
Satan wasn't his parole.
I don't think it was on parole, but it's like, you're going to do what I tell you to do, and you're going to go do that. Okay. Yeah. Great. I thought it was in charge down here. That doesn't matter. I'm still in charge of it anyway. That's right. It's just right. God is still in charge of him, whether he likes it or not. Right. So it's just one of those weird things that.
And Christ was a paranormal investigator as well.
In a way, yeah. I mean, he kind of was. He knew about demons. He knew about spirits. He didn't exorcise demons, though. What he did is, because you read it, doesn't say he exorcised them. He cast them out, right?
Yeah.
Which is a completely different type of thing. Which means he had power over them, so he could just tell them, "You're gone. That's it. You're done." And they had to listen to him, right? He didn't have to go through all the stuff like we do.
That means you work harder.
Yeah, and actually, people talk about that and say, "Oh, so you exorcise this demon?" Actually, we don't do it, right? We're just, God still does it through us. Okay, we're still just, as you can say, still just a tool, man. I don't have the power to chase demons out. None of us, no human does. It's the power of God through you that does it. So it's still God that's, exercising.
You work as a conduit.
Delivering the demon, or delivering the person from the demon. So Christ was actually doing deliverances. He would deliver the people from the evil and from the demons and things like that. So he just told them to get out, basically. So, because again, he was God. So, God on earth. So.
Man, we got deep on this show. This is all fascinating.
Well, you get into this paranormal stuff, and this is kind of where it leads to in the end. Again, spirituality, right? Spirituality.
Yeah. I wanted to. Are you okay, Jack, if I share those? Because they're links. If I share the audio links in the show comments, because then everyone could actually click on it and play it. So
because it's all right, because you can't. I mean, they can only get to that link in that folder. I mean, it's just a shared link, so they can't get into anything else beyond that. So that's fine.
Okay, cool.
We're
past the 2 hour mark here. This is. Oh, sorry. Say we're cruising.
I know. Yeah, I was gonna check in with Jack. Okay, keep going with a couple more questions, or is that cool?
Yeah, I don't care. Yeah, we've been talking. All right. I just looked at the time myself.
Yeah. No,
it doesn't seem that long.
It's got lots to pack in.
That long. Yeah.
No, that's good. That means we're having a good conversation. That's awesome. One thing, you mentioned, probably an hour ago, is in your book, you talk about putting together a good investigation team. What does an ideal investigation team look like to you? What would be something that you would put together like that?
The ideal team is a team with no egos. Let me put it that way. There's no egos on that team.
Right.
And what I'm saying with that is, Ellen McNeil is the team founder of Spirits of New England. Okay, she founded the team. Most team founders always are the lead investigator, but she was, how do I want to say it? She was good enough to realize that, and I never brought it up, I was a good lead investigator. Okay. And it's probably because of what I did at work. I used to lead in teams. I used to put together teams and lead them on projects. Okay. So I had to organize the teams, get them everybody doing their jobs, and make sure everything got done. So she recognized that. So every investigation we go on, I'm the lead investigator on that investigation to keep the team coalesced, to make sure everything goes the way it's supposed to go. She's very good at working with clients and people because she's very personal that way. So she does a lot of that. Our other investigator, Sarah, is good with technical stuff, just like me. So she helps with all the technical stuff. We have other investigators who are, because teams kind of changed and modified over the years. We picked up some people left. But everybody has their job on the team, right? And everybody knows what they're supposed to do. And nobody is worried about, oh, I want to be the one to do this, or I want to be the one. We're all focused on just trying to help the client, okay? Help the person that we're there to help, or the family that we're there to help. So we focus on that, and everybody does their job. And it doesn't matter who's in charge during the investigation, as long as everything gets organized, we get done. So that's what's important. Recognizing the abilities of each member of your team and allowing them to do that job and do it the way they feel it needs to be done. Now, that doesn't mean you don't listen to everybody else in the process, right? Because like when I'm on being the lead investigator, people will say, well, hey, why don't we put something, what about putting a camera over here? What about doing this? I think, yeah, okay, that's a good idea. Let's do that. Or some teams, the person will be like, nope, it's my way. This is the way we're doing it. That's the way we're doing it. Everybody else shut up and we're going to do it this way, which is why a lot of teams never advance. You never grow beyond that one individual, and why a lot of people leave teams at times, because they're just frustrated, right? Because nobody's listening to their ideas. So you got to open, you got to listen to your ideas. You got to work in people's comfort zones, right? People got to be comfortable with what they're doing, and you got to be patient with them, right? So you got to be patient with each other. You have your arguments, you have your fights, you have your things, but you get past them and you move on. It's like a dysfunctional family,
Yeah.
So, and that's what building a good team is about, and that's what I teach in the course I teach. I teach them, like when they'll come in, usually get 7 to 10 people in these little courses, and they'll say, okay, well, you're a team, because a lot of them will say, yeah, I want to be on a team. I want to be on a team. Well, you're right here. You're a team. We're going to treat you that way, and that's how we treat them. You're a team. You guys got to work together. Even the homework, they've got to go through the homework and do it together, and talk to each other about what do they think is an EVP and what do they think isn't. They've got to do all this stuff together. When they investigate it towards the end, the second to the last class, they do an investigation. We watch them work together from what we've taught them as a team, and we'll give them insights into, like, well, maybe let this person was giving you an idea, you kind of shrug them off. Maybe you want to listen to them. Oh, yeah, I didn't realize I did that. Okay. So we give them that type of guidance, and with equipment and stuff like that. Hey, you put that camera down, it's facing a wall. What are you going to get with that? You don't want to watch 3 hours of looking at a wall? Oh, yeah, forgot. Okay. Make sure it's looking at something worthwhile, down a hallway or something. But people make these mistakes, and that's what we're there to kind of teach them is, pay attention to what you're doing, pay attention to your crew, see what's going on, listen to each other, and work together. And then they've got to review the evidence and go over it together and decide if they captured something or not. Okay? So then they've got to present it to us as the client.
How is that reviewing?
Yeah, they have to review it. They have
audio,
video. They take all this audio and video. They've got like 3 hours of it. They've got to go through it all. They've had like
that's got to be hard.
3 or 4 cameras. Yeah, there's a lot. There's like you've got like hours and hours of audio and video. Because we give them like multiple recorders, multiple cameras. They've got to use it all. Now they've got to go back and review all that stuff. So now it's like everybody's got to.
That's got to be hard, man. To sit there listening for like 3 hours.
Sometimes it's static. Sometimes it doesn't make sense. Sometimes there's something there, though, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes they do catch something, and that's what they've got to do. And then they bring it back to us as if we're the client and say, "This is what we found," and we help them analyze it. And we can go through it and say, well, did you realize that? Did you check to see if it was so-and-so talking, or did you? And sometimes they really do get some good stuff. And other times it's like, there's, oh, look, we got this orb. I mean, that dust particles moving across the screen.
Yeah, bug by the
things
lens.
like that,
Yeah.
And I'm honest with them. I'll be totally. I said that's just dust. That's not.
Yeah.
But we do give them examples of things what we call orbs, and which don't look like round orbs. They look more like streaks of energy, right? And that's more interesting because usually when I've caught those things, these like bits of energy, we've caught EVPs at the same time. And what I think is going on there when you talk about spirit orbs and people talk about that stuff, when you see these real odd energy just spikes and they appear in the infrared spectrum of light or something like that, I think what you're seeing is a release of energy from whatever it was that left that voice on the recorder. I don't think it's a ghost, but it's a release of some kind of energy that was made to leave that voice on your recorder. And I think that's what it is.
Like a lightning strike almost, right? Like almost like a...
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of almost along the lines of like earthquake lights. And we've actually captured that on an investigation too. It's that release of energy from something that's all it is. And you get a voice on your recorder at the same time, or either just before or just after. Or even on the video. It could be an EVP that's on the video, voice on the video. And I think that's all it is, because I've caught that almost consistently now over years and years, and I have noticed that we'll catch an EVP or something, and almost all the time you'll get this like flash of energy, and what I really call an orb, and it's just boop, and it's like, oh, there it is again, and it's not just this little dot of light kind of floating.
Like an audio flash bulb almost, right? Like
almost, yeah. I mean, it's not that bright. It can be very quick. It can be very, very fast, but it's there. And I think because we don't know, they don't have vocal cords and stuff like us. So how are they leaving a voice? How are they creating a voice that's caught on the recorder? It's some type of release of energy, right? So I think that's what we're seeing. That. So we go through all this type of stuff with them, and we go over it all with them.
Do you submit your material to specialists like audio tech guys and video specialized type of professionals?
You're talking to the guy.
Yeah, exactly. You are the person.
No, I don't submit it to anybody else. I mean, we talk amongst ourselves as a team. Should we present this to a client or not? Is it something or not? And we go through a lot to try to find out if it is something else that's not paranormal related. I actually do have one piece of video I like to show people, and I don't really tell them about it. And we show it to them, and it looks like these two figures standing in a doorway. And they're like, yeah. Everybody sees it. And they go, and I let it play through the rest of the way. Like, no, it's not. And then I have the transition from it looks like those two figures to the cleaning products inside the closet that was taken as a photograph the next day. And that's all it is. It's a matrixing of what's in that room in the dark, taken by an infrared camera.
Right.
And then
you'll see
and the next day I called the librarian. Well, it was at a library, so I called the librarian. I said, "Can you take a photo of that room for me? That I don't know what was in that room." She goes, "Oh, the cleaning closet," and she told me the photo, and it was the cleaning products on the shelves. But it just happened to look like, and I can even post you that link if you want to take a look at it. And it's because it's really interesting, and it's like it does. And they had reported seeing a male and a female figure in that area, not at the same time, but at different times. So it's like we thought we had something. I had everybody else look at it. It's like, yeah. And I'm like, I don't know what was in there.
Our
so
minds
I literally
will see
called the
faces,
librarian
though,
the next day. Yeah, so I actually had to wait till Monday after the weekend, call the librarian and have her actually take photos on her phone and send them to me. And the minute I looked at it, I was like, that's what it is, the goddamn cleaning products.
A bottle of Lysol and some.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, that's pretty much what it was. So it's just funny. And it's like,
a lot of time, like people, I'm in some of the paranormal groups too online, and they'll put up like, photos of reflections, and they're like, oh, you see a face. Like our minds like gravitate towards trying to find faces and things. It's like, no, dude, that's the leaves of the tree that's across from the driveway that's reflecting in the glass. Like I don't get moved or convinced or not convinced, I guess, from reflection ghost photos. Usually, like there's
no,
probably something
I
else
don't
going on
either.
there.
I mean, I'm very
Yeah.
discerning about the stuff I look at these days, even early on.
Yeah.
But when people send me orbs, it's like it's dust.
Yeah.
Or it's a reflection of something from the camera, because you can actually see the same color and something in the background, and that's a dead giveaway that it's just reflecting that
light can do
color.
that.
It's
Yeah,
like,
like flare, lens flare.
Not only just lens flare, but even at night, like it can be just like moisture in the air that's reflecting a different color, and because you don't see that at night, it could look like it's a completely nice night, but there's moisture in the air, and your camera will pick that up. You know,
But
so you
also,
especially outside stuff, you got to be so careful. But then I've seen things that like, what the heck is that? I can't explain it, and it's like it doesn't fit anything. So what is it? You know, I can't tell if it's a ghost, but I can say, you know, I don't know what that is, and it's interesting. So, you know, you just gotta be careful, and you gotta look at all of it and figure out, okay, what are we really looking at here?
Well,
I'm usually skeptical till I'm not, right? I usually go into it assuming it's fake until I figure out it's not. Yeah.
Like I tell people, you know, you say, well, I'm a believer, but when I go into an investigation, I don't expect anything. I don't necessarily believe everything I'm being told, and I just go in expecting nothing and see what we get. You know, I'm not going to believe that a place is haunted until I've been there myself and, you know, capture something, experience stuff myself, and I can't explain it. You know, so you got to be careful. You know, and that's all I tell people: be careful, because what you present can either make or break your reputation. You know, that's why I show them that. Because I could have presented that to the library and said, "Oh yeah, we captured your male and female spirit," and they'd be like, they could either know it was cleaning products on their thing, or they would believe me, one or the other. But the fact is, you know, if they knew it was a cleaning product, be, "Oh, that's nice, Mr. Kenna. Yeah, okay, have a nice day. We'll see you again sometime." You know, it's like, wow, these people are nuts. That's cleaning products in our cabinets over there. You know, so you got to be careful. You got to go the extra lengths to really try to figure out what is this? Is it paranormal, or is it something more natural? You know,
right.
So be careful what you present. You know, especially if you're in this, to really be professional about it. Careful what you present. Make sure it is something you can't explain. That at least you can't explain. You know, after you've done some debunking. You know, spent hours trying to figure it out. Made the extra phone call to get photos of the area where you think there is something.
It's almost like being a detective. Like your mind's got to think a little bit outside the box sometimes. Like, how would you go to I want to see that closet. Oh yes, it is cleaning products. Like you have to almost
Either you got to go back.
Think very abstract.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, so you got to be careful. You know, and again, that's why we do what we do. That's why we are careful about what we present to people, what we don't present to people. So.
When I was doing my EVP experiments, it took like a couple of weeks until I got something, and I could easily convince myself that was a word or that was a phrase, but actually it wasn't anything. But my mind could easily distort that kind of sound and make me understand that type of word or of sentence. And I kept going. And one day I got something that was so clear that I started showing people, "Oh, are you hearing this? Are you hearing that?" And 100% said, "No, it's a message there." I didn't tell them what that was. And then I got fucking freaked out. Freaked out. And I stopped. And I stopped right away. I'm a city investigator because I couldn't sleep for 3 nights. I couldn't.
Yeah.
But there's something. There's something out there. And if you do research, you're gonna find something. Just keep going.
Yeah.
And
I can tell you this. There's more to this life than this, right?
Fuck yeah. I'm 100% convinced. I'm not sure about anything. I'm not even sure that I'm here now because I can be.
I'm pretty sure I'm here now. At least I hope I am. I hope I'm not in somebody's video game somewhere.
You can be a hologram. You can be a character. Someone is playing you.
If I'm a hologram, boy, they picked an ugly one. Why would they? It made me better looking. Like I did in the comic book.
Yeah. These aches and pains in my 30s are. I mean, I can't imagine that's fake.
Yeah. It doesn't feel fake to me. Maybe we're Sims, right? We're a Sim, right? Sims.
What's the most haunted? What's the most haunted place you've ever been to, Jack? That you can say like this is the place. Like if you were like one location, you don't have to give like names or anything, but I don't know, like a house or town or some city or place you're in.
Actually, the really to me the most interesting, or the most, I don't know what you want to call it, active haunting I ever experienced was what was in that comic book. I experienced every single thing. The whole team did every single thing that guy told us we experienced. And that was it's a private residence out in Springfield, Massachusetts, near Bay Path Cemetery. Bay Path Cemetery is a real place. Wow. And that had to be the most interesting investigation. Now, if you're asking me, and here's what I look like in comic. Yeah, that's me.
Wow.
How I should look in real life.
Let me go.
Right? Yeah.
Let me go full screen.
I should look like that in real life. Yeah. Make my sim look like that. Oh, we didn't have to do it. Make my sim look like that. Yeah.
Just do some dyeing in your beard, you'll be all right.
Yeah, I do for TV. This is my actual hair. You see me on the TV shows. The hair is a lot darker. The goatee's dark. Yeah, this is real big. Yeah.
So that's what we do. On Livid, we see the bags in the eyes. I'm in my basement. It's just comes with the territory. So
that's the real stuff. Yeah, that's the real stuff. But yeah, Bay Path Cemetery, that was a very interesting place. Like I said, it's a real location in Springfield, Massachusetts. Anybody can find Bay Path Cemetery. It's an old pauper cemetery, and there's over 1,000. You go to it. It's not very big. It's not even the size of a football. It's about half the size of a football field, and there's over 1,000 people buried in it.
Jeez.
And it's crazy. And there was stuff connected to that whole case that was connected to all that. So, but the most interesting, I had to tell you, the most interesting place outside of like that place that anybody could go to that I've been to was probably Rolling Hills Asylum. That was a very active place, and I had a lot of experiences there with shadow figures, disembodied voices, cold spots, pretty much everything. Even had something that was making me feel ill inside a room. And when I stepped out of the room, I was fine, literally. I'd walk in the room, I'd feel sick to my stomach, like I had pains in my stomach. Step out of the room, perfectly fine. So that's interesting. I mean, that type of stuff is interesting. So Rolling Hills Asylum, I know a lot of people say Waverly Hills is an extremely active place. I've never been there. I haven't been to too many of the famous places because we spend a lot of time working, private cases. So I don't end up with a lot of time to do other things.
Why doesn't
probably those two places? I would think.
Why doesn't some crazy billionaire hire 40 of you guys to go live in an asylum like that with the most modern gear, the most modern technology, put 24/7 surveillance on that place, and just come back with some definitive proof of amazing stuff? I'm always like that. I'm this place has a lot of activity. Why doesn't somebody invest in this thing and just go there and just put people there 24/7?
I know, that'd be awesome. Maybe we could convince the guy who owns Skinwalker Ranch now to do that.
Oh, yeah.
I was going to say, get
he's got a bunch of people there.
And
he's got a bunch of people there. Maybe he'll do that for a location for paranormal stuff.
Whatever that is messing with them, like you said earlier. It will shut down their gear or just move to another location on the ranch. If there's this is a very active area, then all of a sudden it's nope, it's over here now. They know.
And there's hauntings and stuff that have going on there, and it's very. I do find that show kind of interesting. Wasn't sure what to make of it in the first season, but season 2 was a little bit more interesting.
I think there's something in the ground. Either it's an old ancient technology that we forgot about, or there's maybe it's a crashed UFO that's bending time and space and throwing off radiation that's causing events.
Well, I know last season they found a mineral in the ground. They did find in last year's, there's a mineral in the soil there that doesn't exist anyplace else.
Yeah.
So they're saying, they think, at least that's what they said. So they think maybe that may have something to do with why different things are happening there. It's like a charged mineral of some kind. So that could be it. But I did find when they brought in the one fellow there, he's what's the Jewish priest? Anyways, they brought him in and he did this prayer thing, and they had activities start around that old abandoned house when he was doing that. It was like a portal was opening. So that could connect to the whole spirituality thing, which is kind of interesting. And it even worked when they played it back electronically. So that was even interesting, you know. So I mean, there's so many things out there, so much stuff you could study and do. It'd be interesting to have somebody do that. Just have people live in that location for a year, or more, and collect evidence. You know,
sure.
You know why they don't do that? There's just not enough interest in it. Skinwalker Ranch is a different thing because, you know.
Interest in it, like the government
everyone knows
$26
that.
$26 million of taxpayer money investigating it, kind of business, right? So
that's what makes it more interesting to a billionaire, because the government was interested in it, right? So you know, and maybe they got something out of it too. Who the hell knows, right? You know,
you never know.
You're not gonna know either. So
either that technology could have come right out of there.
Either that, or like, we just blew billions of taxpayer dollars. Don't tell anybody.
Don't do that.
We found nothing. Talk. Tell them nothing. Yeah.
Every dollar goes to the real needs of real people that benefit from it. There's no waste whatsoever.
Whatever you say. Government doesn't waste money.
No. Oh God, why would they do that?
Why would they do that? Oh my God, they waste their money every day. But anyways,
I wanted to jump in here because in typical Livid fashion, we're an hour and a half past the time we said we were gonna have here. So this is what we do. I think it's a good sign. I think it means we have good conversations. But
we did.
So I don't know how your Red Bull's doing there, but it is 11:30 here Eastern time.
Yeah. I'm probably gonna say we can let you guys go for tonight, because I do have to get up in the morning and meet some friends, and we're gonna investigate tomorrow night. So
nice.
We'll come back again if you want us. If
come back. Absolutely,
man. This has been one of my favorite shows. Honestly, it's been.
I've got awesome. As a matter of fact, I got a friend with me that you could interview her even sometimes. She's a paranormal investigator with me. She actually dealt with her own demonic haunting for 13 years.
Oh, wow. Yeah,
she was just a kid when it happened. And she's also a big-time gamer.
Cool.
Harley Hall is her name.
There you go. So,
yeah, she's big into all the gaming stuff. And, I mean, they do tournaments and all that stuff with all that stuff. So she could talk to you more about that. I don't understand half that stuff, but she can. And she's a lot younger than me, too. She can talk even longer. So...
Oh man, yeah. I think
she could talk all night. So
you'll have to.
She's a very interesting individual. She's been on TV for her show, for her story. I mean, the background story, but she's got a lot of insight to a lot of things too. If you ever want to talk to her,
we're all for it.
So yeah, you always got her you can talk to too. So
awesome.
But I'll come back anytime you guys want. Just give me a ring. So
it's been great, Jack. I seriously want this has got to be either top or my second, third favorite show. I mean, it's been awesome. So thank you. So it's been a great time.
It's a great subject, and there's so much to cover. You know, we can talk about so many aspects of it. Yeah. But the nicest thing is that you're someone who's helping people, and you're writing about it like you're leaving your mark, which is fantastic.
And I will say you this, you know why I really did a lot of the writing and stuff was for my kids, and for their kids. I did want to leave something behind for my family. Really, it wasn't really so much for everybody else, but for my kids, you know. And when I made the comic book, they thought that was the coolest thing in the world.
Yeah.
Sure it is.
That was more cool than me being on TV. So.
Wow.
It is. For a fact, it is. I agree 100%.
Yeah, so that alone.
Oh, my kids think I'm famous. They're like, Dad, are you famous?
To write the comic.
Yeah, I was just gonna say we're all famous in our kids' eyes. My kid, I'm sure Joel's kid, they have posters hanging up of our comic books. So
I always tell them, I said, someday, you know, like maybe 2 or 3 generations from now, they'll say, yeah, remember great grandpa, the guy who believed in spirits? Now that we debunked all that, we proved they don't exist. He was insane. That guy was nuts.
Yeah.
Either that or they'll prove it's true and they'll go, he was right all along. But yeah, I mean, that was a big reason I did all the writing was to leave something for my kids so they would know that part of me.
Yeah, that's
awesome.
amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Well,
we
really appreciate it.
Well, gentlemen,
so thank you for being here with us tonight. And we're going to talk again, probably in 2022, which is only 2 months away from now.
Yeah, seriously.
And it was great, and we thank you for being here with us.
Well, I appreciate it. It was my honor too. Really, you guys are great.
Yeah, thanks,
you guys
Jack.
had a great show. Thank you very much, and we'll talk again. All right.
Very welcome.
All right, you guys have a good night.
We'll be back. Yeah, we'll be back Wednesday night with author Jeff Strand. So check us out then, 9 p.m. Eastern. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe. Hope everyone has a great night. Happy Halloween, everybody, and stay livid. We'll catch you on the next one.